sponsor we're all really excited
They
about.
all have breakout groups, so that's why everything's shuffled.
I got you. This is what they do at school. They take out
I think they put
Exactly.
on the side,
friends, go with your friends.
and the not troublemakers on this side.
Oh, okay. Gene again, man.
Don't worry, I'll make it up.
We got to end of the deal.
He
Oh,
said
man, I
the
forgot all about that.
yes, the mayor will be here.
Were you in hospital again? No, it's a. Oh, okay. Yeah, I completely forgot to, man. I was like, I'm supposed to meet with somebody.
Don't worry, it's all right.
Forgot, man.
These are short keys.
Oh, yeah, it gets dark, it's like that time.
Just now, that's what I was just looking at.
Okay.
There's lots of pictures. Yep, I'm a visual learner. Keep bringing that visual better.
We'll be. I think I might grab some more.
Ding, ding.
Okay, we're ready to go. Y'all ready? I'll have it down. All right, I call this meeting to order of the special called meeting for City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission joint workshop on Monday, November 13th at 6 p.m. Mayor Sherrick is excused absence, got a new baby, and Alderman Daniel Claypock is working, so he's excused. All right? So if y'all will, Tanya's gonna lead us in a prayer. If you will stand and join us, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for the opportunity to come together and work as a team. Lord, we just ask that you keep us focused and keep us balanced and lead us and guide us into the decisions that we're making to proceed with our great city. Lord, we're thankful for our staff, we're thankful for our first responders, and we're thankful for all that are here to serve. Lord, we're grateful that Mayor has a healthy baby girl and missing this evening, but we welcome a new citizen in our city as well. Please continue to watch over us and guide us in all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. No, that's not.
So
we'll call the, city, council planning and zoning commission joint workshop to order, and we're missing, one of our, Sally's the one that's missing, so, which is excused, she did call. But it's not, anyway, and then I guess we'll, go into, recess, we don't have to, okay, then that's it, that's all we got then.
We don't have anybody to speak tonight?
I haven't received any cards.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we are ready to get started again on day 2 of our workshop. So thank you all again for coming. So I'm turning it over to you.
All right. So, how's everyone doing tonight? I'm excited to talk about the zoning code again. So excited. And potato. So we have a new face in the room tonight, so I'm going to just reintroduce myself and our team up here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But my name is Madison Graham. I'm a planner with Kimley Horn, and I've been planning with Kimley Horn for about 5 years now, so very excited to be here tonight.
My name's Ethan Harwell. I'm also a planner. Been with Kimley Horn roughly a year and a half now, but prior to that, I was with the city of Georgetown for about 3.5.
And I'm Jonathan Sosby, and I'm a planner with Kinley Horn as well, been there about 2 years.
All right. Okay, so tonight's workshop is going to be a little bit different than our last workshop. Tonight is going to be a little bit more informal. We want to have conversations with you guys. We're going to start to dive into some of the specifics that we established some high-level goals last time, and then tonight we're going to dive a little bit farther into the updates that were made since the last time we saw you guys. So for the agenda for tonight's meeting, I'm going to give you guys a brief recap of what we heard from you guys last meeting, and then we're going to go over some of the new updates and the changes that were made to the districts and the permitted use table, which, by the way, we have if you want a big blown up version of the permitted use table, we have it in the corner just for y'all to go over here and check it out. And then after we go through each zoning district, then we're going to talk about next steps. And that should be it for tonight's workshop. So last month we met with you guys and we had our nice little activity wall. So we just have a slide here to talk about some of the major feedback that was heard from you guys. So we really wanted to streamline but expand the permitted use table. We wanted a little bit more than we had those 52 uses in our use table. We want a little bit more to give you guys more direction, but not too many. We don't want to make it overly complicated or confusing. So that's why I know expand, streamline, it's almost an oxymoron a little bit, but we want to expand it, but with thought and purpose behind the expansion of the permitted use table. You guys wanted us to differentiate between downtown and Old Town, and what does that look like? Where are those boundaries, and what is the vision for each of those districts? So we also wanted to establish a clear vision for each zoning district, so we made some edits to the district's purpose statements, which we'll go through in detail here in just a second. We wanted us to create an I-35 overlay district as well, and a mixed-use zoning district, and of course fix our technical issues in the zoning code. So, here's some pictures from that last workshop. We gathered all of your feedback, and we took that feedback back to our office, and we made some changes that we will go through with you all tonight in lots of detail. So, and of course, everything that you see tonight, all of your handouts, all of your material, is still very much in draft form. So if there is something that you don't agree with or that you would like to see changed, now is that time. That's why we're here tonight. So if you'd like to see any changes, please let us know throughout our workshop tonight. And that was a quick recap, so I'm going to hand it over to Ethan now to talk about some of the specific changes that were made.
So we're about to kind of dive into content and go real fast. So are there any questions about the feedback that Maddie presented on last time, or any questions what we're going to do tonight? Perfect. All right, so some of the changes that we're going to go over with you tonight are structural. There are changes to the numbers of districts, there are changes to the actual number of permitted uses in the table, the addition of new districts, but then others are more about content. So in this first half of our presentation, Jonathan and I are going to switch off and kind of explain some of those structural changes to you. And then we'll jump into content, which is really more about the actual structure and format of each zoning district. So, one of the things we heard about at our last meeting was that you didn't quite have enough zoning districts to make as fine of grain decision as you would like to. You know, sometimes you want to approve a zoning, but you maybe didn't want to approve everything that was permitted within that zoning district. So, in comparing it to your peer cities last time, you may remember that we had a wide number of zoning districts. Some cities had 9, some cities had 25. And at the time, currently Jarrell has 14 districts total. What we propose tonight would be to increase that number to 15, add a few more zoning districts to help you help align with your future land use map.
19. You said
Yeah.
15.
Sorry, oh man, sorry, I can't read today. 19 zoning districts, we're adding 5, that's what got 5. To align with the future land use map, 3 of those are going to be overlay zoning districts, and then a few new districts like ag and a mixed use district that we'll talk about tonight. Then, as far as your permitted use table go, you may remember last time that our peer cities, Belton, Killeen, Georgetown, ranged anywhere from 120 uses to like 220 uses. Permitted use table we put together for your review tonight is going to have about 170 uses. So kind of right there in the middle range, not too much that you trudge through it, trying to find what you want, but just enough that it gives you a better idea of how to classify folks when they come into the city to do business. We've also added that L use here. If you remember, previously we talked about how currently the UDC today is structured for permitted or conditional use permit. We've added that middle ground where you get permitted with conditions. So, if you're a visual person like me, sometimes I need to see the permitted use chart all in one place to compare things. So that's what we printed out for you here for you today. So on the permitted use chart, you'll see the new districts we'll talk about reflected. You'll see where we've added the L to the permitted use table, and then in the handouts on your table, you'll find a list of proposed use conditions. That was because our kind of our first stab at drafting those L's for you. The L's, the limitations you're going to see outlined there tonight are really focused on use and how we're using the property and where that's appropriate. Next month, as Maddie discussed, we're going to get to actual design standards. What does this look like, and what exactly, if we're going to have a gas station, how does it look? What types of features does it need on the site?
Is the L going to include the transition First Street? We talked about that last meeting.
Transition.
Yeah, single family to small business and what have you.
Oh yes, sir. It's okay. Yes.
Well, I'm saying, is that the L? Is that the permitted use with limitations? So you have a single family home and somebody wants to open a hair salon on First Street or one of the main streets and create an area. Is that the L?
Yes, sir. And that the transitions talk about like adding parking and landscaping to convert it into a business.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But you have to make plans for the fact that there's going to be a lot of traffic and it's going to transition.
Yes, sir.
Well, we have to make a buffer around.
Yes, that'll be part of the L.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, in looking at the permitted use table looking at our zoning districts, to align them with our future land use plan and feedback we received last week, we have to remove some districts, add some districts, and modify some districts. So, what we propose to do is eliminate the downtown commercial district. I'll talk more about how we're making for that in just a moment. And then essentially eliminate our current SF3 zoning district. What we heard about the SF3 district was there was really no need for it to exist. Virtually it was just SF2 Part 2. In exchange for those, we have created a new general commercial district, which can be combined with a new downtown overlay district to become your downtown overlay district. So instead of just having one district for downtown, you have options now. Really, any of your districts, could be used for your downtown overlay. We've created a business park district, which is really intended to be something more of an office, less intense commercial zoning district. Something you wouldn't mind putting next door to a neighborhood, along a major roadway. We've created a new SF3 zoning district, which is gonna permit a lot of the housing types desired in your comp plan, something between your traditional suburban neighborhood and an apartment complex. We have added an agriculture zoning district, something to be used as properties as a holding category as properties are brought into the city limits, or if you have a special agriculture type user. Public facilities, we'll get into that in just a moment, very self-explanatory, and then that mixed use district to align with the specialty mixed use category in the future land use map. And last but not least, our I-35 corridor district. We also tweaked some of the zoning districts. Some of this was just a modification in name, some of it was a slight modification in scope. Light industrial, we'll change that to a light industrial warehousing, changing that description a little bit. SF1, SF2, relatively the same, but just tweaking it, trying to make it match our expectations for housing, what these neighborhoods look like. There was no need for 2 manufactured housing zoning districts, so we combined that into one. And then your MF2, we have just renamed it to high density residential, but we still created that mixed use district, which will have similar uses. So now I'll hand it over to Jonathan to kind of talk through a high level. We won't go line by line, but we'll just talk about high level changes.
So we did keep the conditions that you currently have as a conditional use permit, and then we added, of course, as Ethan kind of explained, the L for limitations to kind of add some more flexibility and kind of talk about the transitions. And if you have a business next to a single family district, how could that look, and how can we allow that, but make sure we're still kind of having an even transition there. And as Ethan said, at the next workshop, we'll add some more design standards to kind of look on that, because right now we're really focused on the use. And so on the permitted use table, we started out with the residential here. The red italicized is the use that we added, and the just the normal black text is what you already had in your permitted use table. And so we added the townhouse and like a multifamily detached versus an attached product. A multifamily detached product will be similar to a townhouse you would expect, or single family for rent. Whereas a multifamily attached would be your typical, apartment style dwelling. And then, a few other things just we added to, create more specific uses, because otherwise, a developer may come in and say, I want to open in an assisted living, where does this sort of fit on the permitted use table? And now there's that option there. And then for civic uses, we added schools and hospitals, things like that, to again, just get more specific with the uses. Makes it easier on staff and easier for a developer to come in and say, where can I fit in and which district can I go in? And we added a section for parks and open space there. And then a bunch of different commercial uses. Obviously the commercial uses was a little lacking in the current permitted use table, so we got really specific and added in things like a microbrewery, because that should be treated a little bit different than maybe a bar or tavern would be. And then also added some extra things for a hotel. And we added definitions for all of these, of course, whereas like a hotel boutique would be a little bit, something a little bit more of a unique experience than just your average hotel, which would be, your Hampton Inn or something like that. And then we added, a longer list of the commercial uses. These are all new, of course, and adding things like general office, fitness center, which would be your gym, things like that. And then adding in vet clinics and laundromat. And then here's, we're getting into your more industrial but still commercial uses. So kind of differentiating between your automobile sales and your repair services. And here we get into transportation, adding different like rail or transit yard, and then a wireless transmission facility. And then industrial uses here. And then our ag uses, which would go in line, of course, with the ag district. And then these temporary uses, which do not currently exist, but it's very important to have. So think of things like with if a residential subdivision is going in, allowing that residential sales office to kind of go in and be allowed with this, and of course with the limitation, you know, we might add something like, they have to renew a sort of temporary use permit, so it's not there forever, or it has to go away once, you know, 80% of the homes are sold or something like that. And now with the zoning districts.
Quick question for you. How many churches are over there?
Churches,
It'll be a religious facility, I think is what it's called.
at the bottom, it's all Cs.
So, most places of worship are protected by, of course, the First Amendment and it's by the laws. So really, we have to permit them everywhere in the city.
Sorry.
Good question.
Yeah, so I think the biggest change to this, as we talk about the zoning districts, we'll reference back to this, which is why we discussed it first. A few more times, talking about the difference maybe, you know, between I-1 and I-2, what is our intention there? What should the difference be between C1, C2, and C3? What's the difference there? What do we do with BP? What do we do with MU? So we'll reference back to this as we go. But I really think the biggest change here was just filling in those missing gaps. Like for instance, you notice almost every auto repair use was missing. You know, what is Jordan supposed to do with that when she has a developer call or a business owner call? And then we categorize things. So there, you see that on two rooms. Okay. So now we're gonna really dig in here. We're gonna start reviewing all of our new zoning district categories. So the way we kind of have the structure is that Jonathan and I will review each new zoning district with you. If I talk about the purpose and the intent, we have some images to go over, and then we'll do that for our residential and our commercial, industrial, special area, mixed use, etc. We'll do that for each kind of category of zoning district. And then at the end of each category, Madison is going to come kind of walk us through a worksheet, because we do need your feedback on how to proceed next month as we start crafting design standards. So as we kind of lead in this presentation, you know, if y'all be thinking of, hey, did we get it right? Did we hear what you heard? Did we hear what you told us at our last meeting? Did we interpret your comp plan correctly? Does this match your vision for Jarrell? And then as we start looking at these images, you know, please be thinking about, you know, okay, as I'm in a neighborhood, what do I want it to feel like? When I'm thinking about the view of our city from I-35, you know, what would I like it to look like? But we'll jump right in. You go to the next slide. I have to make sure I can count tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yes, we have increased the number of residential zoning districts to 6. Starting from the top, we'll have our SF1 district. The SF1 district is really going to be used in those parts of the city where you don't expect to provide wastewater service, or a developer or landowner wants to have larger, more estate-style lots, as a realtor might call them. The minimum, what we propose here is to create kind of a large lot, rural environment. Typically, these have their own street sections. You know, instead of curb and gutter, it's just a bar ditch. This is really where you can have a 1 acre lot and run on city water and septic, or 2 acres to run on well and septic. So this was already existing in the code, really haven't changed it much.
And this SF2 district is pretty much the same as well. It's intended to create that sort of single-family residential neighborhood. There we go. So when you think of, you know, traditional suburban development, just single-family homes, this would be the district it would go in. And then we did add in, just to create more housing choice and housing variety as the comp plan kind of directed us. We did add, you know, adding an accessory unit or maybe a duplex, not by right, but with limitations, and making sure that it looks appropriate and fits in with the neighborhood. And the design standards in this district would really reflect that, more just a traditional single-family neighborhood.
The SF3 district is really where we departed. If your SF2 is your typical single-family subdivision, this is where we're starting to think more about how do we densify and provide additional housing options for folks in Jarrell, particularly in places that have lots of good connectivity, you know, the grid-like street system, maybe like Old Town, maybe just new development near the core of Old Town, traditional neighborhoods that we wanted to densify. So you'll still find that single-family homes are encouraged in this district, but where possible, we really encourage encourage those missing middle housing types. Something that allows more density on a lot or more density on a block. Maybe they start to be connected units, but they take a denser form. Maybe they're townhomes, duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units. But then maybe on smaller lots, we're gonna allow them to be connected. It really all just kind of depends on the character of the area and what may be appropriate at that location. So these are some examples here. Starting at the top right, this is an example of a new kind of traditional duplex. So you'll notice the look and feel of it looks a lot like a single family home. It doesn't immediately scream duplex to you. But it's got 2 front doors, 2 front porches. It's good. Over here, you'll find that this is an example of a townhouse where the homes are attached side by side to each other. These could be platted so that you are able to buy and sell each one, or they could be one lot that are bought and sold as condominiums or something. But you can see how it fits into the block structure of the street. You can imagine this picture was taken from the street. There's your sidewalk, there's your path up to the door. Then these 2 pictures here are examples of smaller lot single-family homes. These are very narrow. You'll notice that the entry is tucked away here on the side. This is even just a 1-car garage. It's not wide enough for 2. And here, these are single-family homes, but you'll notice the garage is in the rear, and then they are brought up probably about to the 15-foot line in front of the street.
And then we're getting into a more dense residential district with the medium density MF1. And so this district is, like I said, a little more dense, but a different type of housing product. So you'd think of like more of like a cottage area where kind of the homes are in like a U or a V. And then also quadplexes, triplexes, things like that. So single family homes may not be, or wouldn't really be appropriate here, as you have a more multifamily product. And this would be a good district for that multifamily detached product that I mentioned earlier, which could include like a single family for rent product. So it looks like a single family neighborhood, but it's all in one lot, and it's platted as one lot, but it's all for rent. So this would go good here, as well as maybe like a 2-story apartment complex or a multiplex like that.
I'll say on this slide as well, here the difference between your SF3 and your MF1 is that this is really when a developer wants all of their units on one lot. This is when they want to kind of create a complex. So these cottage court type homes, you may have 8 or 9 units on one lot. Now that lot may be an acre in size, but they're all there together and they're sharing common facilities. They're sharing the sidewalk, they're probably sharing a parking area that way. This, I've heard referred to as a big house product. It's designed to look like a big house, but this may have 8 units inside of it. And in the SF3 district, you could have a unit like this, but it's on a plotted lot. Someone probably owns it, leases out to their friends. Maybe it's just a one-off lot an investor owns and could rent. Here, you're getting this building type in a whole complex, right? But you're still under that 10, 12, 20 units an acre range. But that's the difference. Shared common facilities, single lot.
And this district is really appropriate when talking about location too. So if a single family district is located on one side of the street and then a commercial district is located at the very end, this district might be appropriate kind of in the middle, as it acts as a more intense residential district and kind of buffers the commercial use from that single family use of the street.
Applicable to retirement community.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Oh, our high density multifamily district, this is really where you expect to find your typical apartment. We would not expect to have detached units like single family homes here. We would not expect to have those lower rise apartments like that big house product, but your 2, 3, maybe even 4-story walk up apartment, that's what you would find here. Now you will find that each of these pictures here reflect kind of a different style of apartment. This one here, you'll notice it's in front of a parking lot, 3 stories. This is a very efficient design, right? This is your typical apartment complex you've seen before. Same here. I would say these two though, these differ. If you notice, they're, this one, the way it relates to the street is different. So instead of having a street, big parking lot building, you've got street, landscaping, sidewalk, gates, and each of these units has direct access to the street, right? They don't have to walk up to the front as a big, auto-oriented complex. Here, this looks like it fronts a major street, and then it only has outdoor space on one side here.
We just have don't we have an ordinance that only allows 3 stories?
Are we looking at
Is this
going
your height?
higher than 3 stories?
We can go higher than 3 stories.
Right now, we're limited to 3.
Yes, ma'am. So right now, our maximum building height is 35 feet tall. When we talk about lot design standards, if there's a specific area you guys would be okay seeing that 4, 5, 6 foot, that's something we'll address when we do lot design standards. If it's in an overlay district, that's another possibility. So if you only want to see it on 35, we can do that.
Okay.
There's
Right.
lots of options from here, but it's in our lot design standards.
So you're proposing to change 3, 4, 5
That's
stories. Is that
that's
what I'm reading?
No, sir, that is what we are seeking your feedback on today. Really in this image, yes, this is nice because it helps you know what a 5-story may look like, but really we're looking at those characteristics I described.
Thank you.
But I will say this, whenever we get into this level of density, we are looking, you don't want to use this district directly next to a single family home, like Jonathan mentioned. You want to use that SF3 or the MF1 to create that, a physical transition. You want to see the ability to stair step down. Then you also have that transition in density, right? This may be 20, 25 units an acre, in MF1, maybe 10, 15 units an acre, then your single family district, down to 8, right? The number of people coming, going, the lights, the noise, that will all kind of dissipate as you go forward. You also want to be sure that you're putting this many people in one place, that you're putting them closest to the places that they want to be. That you're putting them closest to the places where they want to shop, where they want to go, where they work, where they go to school. That way you're encouraging either very short trips, vehicle mile trips on your roads, or just to walking.
Where would that be right now in Jarrell? I guess that would be close to here.
Drove past those apartments on the way in.
Yeah, so I think the majority of where we're seeing interest along major arterials, so Bud Stockton, 487, we've had some interest on 35 specifically. We have a PUD that was approved already on 310 and 35. They have some of these multifamily sites already in their PUD. We're not seeing a lot in city center or near our residential subdivisions that are existing already. It's along these major arterials today at least.
They're not going over 3 stories.
No, so right now our maximum is 35 feet tall, regardless of what district they're in. That is our maximum building height for apartment complexes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the manufactured housing district, this is pretty much just the same as the current MH1 and MH2 that you have. We just combined them. So it would be the same district, whether it's just a single manufactured house on one lot or a manufactured park. So it's all pretty much all the same, just combined.
Okay, so, all right, so we have finished the first part of our workshop. The boys did a great job explaining all the different residential districts. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a little bit of a breakout activity. I'm sure that y'all probably have questions or want to discuss things. So we are gonna do that in our little small group. So we're gonna break up based on table. We'd love for y'all to start to look at this handout. Can grab this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. So we have on our handouts here, we have the purpose statement and then the 4 photos that we showed y'all in our PowerPoint. And so basically what we'd like for y'all to do is to fill out this 3rd column here. So we want you to take a look at these 4 pictures that were shown on each slide for each of the residential districts. And we want to hear from you what you like. If there's something that you really particularly like about how one of these buildings is oriented, you know, we were trying, the purpose of this activity, we're trying to get your feedback on design standards without having to go through, you know, each specific standard. But, and also I know that, you know, the actual PDF says, circle something that you like, but if there's also something that you particularly do not want to see in Jarrell, please let us know. You know, we want to stay around 3 stories, or maybe in this, you know, zoning district it would be appropriate to go up to 5 stories. So think about how the building is oriented on the street. So how far do we want the building, the front door from the road, basically? You know, should we have the parking in the front? Should we have the parking in the back? So, you know, and of course, Jonathan and Ethan and I will be walking around to talk to you guys and answer any questions that you may have. But we want to do this group activity so we're going to do it first for the residential zoning districts, then we're going to go into the non-residential and then the special districts as well. So we're going to repeat this activity 3 times. But for the first activity, let's just do the residential districts. And then, you know, after, you know, we maybe spend about 10-15 minutes as small groups discussing what you like, what you don't like about the pictures, but also look at the purpose statement as well. You know, and then we can report back here in about 10-15 minutes and talk about what you guys discussed.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Manufactured home versus mobile home. We have areas for mobile homes. There was once upon a time we were never going to put mobile homes here, ever again. I don't know if anybody wants to address that. The difference between manufactured and mobile, maybe. Are we permitting mobile homes now?
I can speak to that. So,
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
The difference in a manufactured home and a mobile home is a law that changed in 1976. Mobile homes were pre-76, manufactured homes are after 76. So now they're built to a standard.
Foundation wise.
The whole house.
So what we call a manufactured home is
They're all manufactured homes.
It's essentially built to a code regulated by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban
Palm Harbor, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and so those are reviewed to the International Building Code, like any other, you know, stick-built house would be. Here in Jarrell, they're just reviewed to that federal standard. So if you walk in, there's usually a little plaque that says, you know, built to the HUD standard, not IBC standard.
So we don't build manufactured, I mean, mobile homes.
Correct. Yeah, so a manufactured home will still be on the chassis, but it's usually hidden, tied down to a foundation. Not necessarily a trailer.
And while y'all are in your small groups, the last thing I'll say, if you are curious to dive into the details and say what specifically is allowed in this district, we have our permitted use table, several areas around here, and then also that last column in the permitted use table where it says notes, that correlates with the use limitations handout as well. So, with that, I guess we can spend the next 10 minutes talking to our small groups.
Here's my beef with
Okay, so this is what do you think about these designs?
like, we have a sidewalk and you have that little patch of grass. Well, and no one ever mowed that. Yeah. So I have the sidewalk right next to it.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
People swear that's not there.
That's an acre.
Yeah.
So for me, that would be.
I've seen that too.
Maybe a ranch out
I don't have anything for
Well, that's a big
Just push like 4 chairs.
Dude, I was like, eventually this house is gonna go. I'm not but it looks like, well,
Yeah, Benny looks like.
So like we have right here, that would be a simple. The biggest, I think the biggest difference was when
I like a little bit of variation, but I don't want to see.
Yeah, you are in dad, aren't you?
Five more minutes. This is a lot to go through. So we're gonna 5 more minutes.
I want to know more than 20.
Then if I had a one-story house, I would do one-story. That's what but it's up to you. This is my.
Duplexes in, SF3 and. I do a circle. Yeah, what do you think about that? That's it.
These look better than an offset.
I think it doesn't do it right. Round nine, stuff like that.
I don't have a problem with it, long as it's variation. I like it. Yeah, I like the brick. It does. They are. But it would make it.
But when you do that, then you're cutting down.
That's up to them.
I'm doing circles. You gotta ride do a circle for me. You don't make it do square, but everybody is.
It gives it a real clean
But I like this one. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of space.
I don't want to see a bunch of, and I've seen this.
And that's it.
They don't have anything on the front, it's just around. You can almost pick up the sheds.
Well, you have it on the then also with the Cambridge County, these are supposed to be small.
That's all one deal.
I'll just say that Oregon has square footage, one car. Yeah, that's a two-car.
Maximum of 2 cars.
So we did one towards. We did the other one. If you haven't up to the, enough one, enough two, or in H district, please, start there with 3 more minutes. To get through enough two and H. It's a lot to cover. 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes.
I'll let Tom, you're all with you. All of this behind that brick is, you're gonna put a concrete slab on that 5% concrete slab large enough.
If there's an alley or any.
I mean, that's what.
So there's 2 different jobs.
There's sidewalk, right.
And so.
I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay, so you will drop it in the morning and morning.
So how are we gonna do that?
Like this.
Drive down, get that closer to downtown. Right next to it, a long apartment like this.
1 minute. 1 minute.
It's just for the, kind of got enough sound to even move his front yard or something.
So maybe 5 more minutes.
Do what?
Oh, but y'all don't have to.
Okay.
Just the rest of it.
Okay. You're good. I'm halfway through this thing, baby. I'm gonna finish it. Yeah.
We could have given you all a week to do this.
Yeah.
All right, finish up discussions with your group. We'll come back together. All right, what do you think? Can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the exercise? Thumbs up, thumbs down, neutral, thumbs up? Just helpful? Okay. Awesome. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to go district by district, and I'll ask that each group just kind of share your big thoughts behind each zoning district. You know, was there something that really stood out to you? Was there something you really liked, something you really disliked, something you want to see more of, less of, those types of things. So Jonathan and I will lead the discussion, and Maddie has much better handwriting than either of us, and so she'll take notes for us on each district. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Perfect. Is there anybody who'd like to start with SF1? Any particular group?
Yeah,
Ms. Rice?
we can do that. You can call me Rusty. You don't have to call me Miss Rice. Make me feel old.
Well. Thank you.
I think our consensus was we really liked number 3 because on the picture.
Mhm.
This is supposed to be kind of a rural setting, even though that's where we live.
Mhm.
You know, I like the house. I wish we had all those trees, but I like the house sitting back. When you have a larger lot, I like to see it not pushed up to the front or pushed up to the back. So that's what I liked about this one.
So it has a balanced yard.
Yes, it does. I like that they're, from the picture, of course, you understand from the picture, sometimes it's hard to tell. But I don't see a lot of concrete here. I see more greenery, and I like more greenery than I do concrete, so. These, we were in consensus, by the way. That's probably, so, you guys have anything to add?
Anything y'all didn't like about it? Anything you'd be worried about?
I don't think in this one that there was really anything that we would be worried about, because we're talking larger lots anyway, like our acre and a half. You know, we're talking larger lots.
It's not like it has to be, I mean, even though like the description where we're saying that it's kind of midway, it doesn't have to be in the smack middle of the lot, but to have that nice piece of property in the front, and then if it's, even like the first one, or where the first one, where you got more property on going in the back, it's still fine that way. You know, they all have their good qualities, but that one.
I could see 1, 2, and 3 existing in the same neighborhood. Simply because of the size of the lot, simply because, I mean, we're not talking a developer putting these houses together that look like cookie cutter houses. So,
That extra space and that
Yes,
breathing room between homes
that
gives you
breathing room.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Wonderful. With this table, any thoughts on SF1?
I believe we felt that it was a big enough lot for all of them to be acceptable. We brought up the whole septic, you have to have at least an acre, so you're kind of pretty much doing your own thing, and, it's rural, so normally people who buy stuff like that wanna do what they wanna do anyway, so. Yeah.
Between them.
My mom would say she doesn't want to hear the toilet flush in the house.
Exactly, right? They get a little more money, so they should have a little more
I don't want to
leniency
hand
there.
rate the time from
I think that, we both agreed on the first image, and the first and the third are similar houses. The first image just has more of a bird's eye view, so you can see how much space there is, you know, a little bit more, but I definitely like that there's a lot of green in the top picture. You can really see a lot of green at the back. In the third picture, you can see a lot of green at the front, and so having both of those, you know, I mean, and I think we could tell from both that it's either 2 or 3 to 5 acres, you know, roughly that kind of area, maybe even 1 acre, but maybe more so the larger acreage for that house to be on.
We like the fact that it's 2-story, and then the 1 acre one, which is the third one down there, is more ranch style, which is, when you have plenty of room, that looks fine. That was their pick on that. No, we disagreed on almost everything else.
All right. This table, would y'all start us off on SF2? If you think we do. Any takeaways, likes, dislikes, concerns?
Sure. So this one, The one thing that stood out was, the sidewalks, that's one of the things that we kinda like, I know that's something that Jarrell kinda has an issue with, some of these developments, so, we definitely would like to encourage that. And then the other thing that we noticed too is on these images, the roof lines are pretty uniform, but there are some developments that there's a pretty, big delta between some of the buildings within the subdivision. So I think that we would like to maintain some percentage, between buildings in order to kind of create that uniform, throughout the community. That's one thing that stood out to us.
We didn't want the grass between the sidewalk and the road, or the sidewalk and the curb all in one unit. Yeah, because nobody, then they'd be arguing on who's supposed to know it.
It's dead anyway.
Yeah, true. But anyway, that's what we thought as well.
Okay.
I would certainly agree with I would
Yeah.
certainly agree with that.
Okay, SF2, I think we were okay with it.
Yes.
The one that I didn't like was the fourth one. And of course, part of what we're making judgments on are on pictures, and sometimes we don't see the full effect. But number 4 to me looks like it has more concrete than greenery. And I would be worried about runoff. You wanna be sure that we have the drainage and stuff to handle the runoff. If we have someplace that doesn't have the greenery to absorb when we do finally get rain.
Yeah, yeah. And so this one's actually a duplex.
Yeah.
So when you've got twice the number of units on a lot, you have to have twice the amount of driveway.
Yes,
That's
that's
okay.
right.
But the drainage comes into play, got a lot of rock too.
Yeah, they zero state.
Yeah.
I think drainage needs to be priority when we have taking a subdivision or approve one, that we need to have a good plan on how they're gonna handle drainage.
I think Georgia tries to do that, I think, but I'm not sure. I do like the idea that they brought up about, the grass between the sidewalk and the street. So I think that's an excellent point that they brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard called a devil strip sometimes.
yeah. I mean, I like it, but I know we have issues with who maintains what in Jarrell. So if we don't have it, then we don't have to worry about who
You have
maintains
to
it.
argue that. Perfect. Okay. This one?
I think we would echo that, for sure. I mean, I would, that sidewalks are really nice, and I'd like to see more sidewalks in our, SF2s. I did like the fourth image a little bit, not because, I don't like, obviously, that there's not as much grass there, but I do like it's out of those houses, to me, it looks, nice because it's got more rock on it, and just a personal preference, I like rock rather than the wooden siding, but, I circled the different ones, so, I think that look good.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And that might be more like over at Sonterra, I'm thinking.
So,
The first picture is more like Sonterra.
Yeah, the
Oh,
first
you're
picture is
right.
right on there.
And that's our first pick anyway.
so what exactly, we all appreciate sidewalks, but what exactly is the benefit of the sidewalk to y'all? Is it the ability to walk safely out of the street, or is it
We
an
have,
aesthetic?
I think it is the safety issue. We have kids that walk to school, we have no sidewalks for them to walk to school in our Old Town, and our street is considered part of Old Town. And, we have people who wanna walk, and walk their dogs, and walk for exercise, and we don't have a safe place with our streets, we don't have a safe place for that. So for me, it's a safety issue. Yes, it looks nice. That's not my main concern. My main concern is the safety.
Jordan perhaps could answer that. I mean, isn't there ADA requirements for that? I mean, you have to have sidewalks, at least 3 foot, you have to be able to have little ramps to get on and off.
Yes, there is. So the majority of, well, all of the subdivisions done after 2012 and up have sidewalks. All ramps have to be ADA compliant, and then any businesses that are, open for the public also have to be ADA compliant with sidewalks and ramps.
Open for golf cart usage?
That.
Just kidding.
So, okay, so as you, I have a question on that, so, I know it's a big confusion in Austin and most places. So the other sidewalk, is it for pedestrians only, or is that including bicycles, or bicycles allowed to do the sidewalk? Cause I know that's a big thing, right, bikes.
I don't have a problem
I
with
think-
kids riding bikes.
I think it's a great question, that is a little bit out of the scope of
Yeah.
chapter
Oh, okay, I was just,
Yeah.
you're
You're
getting,
good.
like, existing, like, we would have, if we're gonna have everything on sidewalk.
Yeah, well, so I'm asking about sidewalks and how you use them, because you
Yeah.
kind of get some choices when you're thinking about your subdivision design. Right, you'll notice, in this picture, this is a duplex, but the front porch is relatively close to the street. So if you're walking down the street, you could look over, visit with your neighbor, you could see what's happening on the front porch. This image, it's a little bit further away, right? And so you get a little bit more privacy in the home, maybe feel less isolated on the street. And over here, I think this is the furthest away, but the front door is right up to the front of the street. So it affects the feeling of what happens when you walk down the street. Is that something that's important to y'all, or is that, that we should pay attention to as we draft standards to bring back to you next month? Or is that kind of negligible to y'all?
I think it's
That's
important.
important, yeah.
It's important which way?
Well, I think it's important first for residential density that you're looking at. Okay, I think people do want to get out and say hello to their neighbor. They
To
don't
have eyes
want
on the street.
to, they don't want to walk in the mud and everything else.
Sometimes we call it, as designers, we call this the public realm, we call this the private realm. There's an invisible wall between the two.
Yeah.
We, sort of how you want to breach that.
I feel like the farther it's away, it makes people not, because most people are like, this is my house, get off my property, right? So it's like, well, this is the sidewalk, so I can safely walk, and I'm not encroaching on your
But
property.
it still feels like their space.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And for me, if you put it closer, then they're gonna have a smaller driveway, and they have more of a chance of blocking the sidewalk with vehicles. So, for that perspective, I say a little further away.
Okay.
Because they need to have room. I mean, if you drive a big old truck, you've gotta have room.
Absolutely.
So,
I
yeah,
mean,
you don't
the
want to hang
curb
over on the sidewalk.
No.
Meets the sidewalk. I think that's real clean.
Now, sometimes, different cities have different rules, right? We have a front setback, we'll say 20-foot front setback. Some cities will have rules that, your garage has to be set back further than the front of the house. Maybe 25 feet. Or they'll say you can have your 20-foot setback only applies to the actual building. Your porch can be in the front setback, But sometimes it's great because it gives builders and homeowners flexibility, especially in older parts of town where folks want to add on and redo the front of the house, But other times that just kind of makes everything look kind of clunky, right? Do y'all have a preference there?
I like the first two, they both, to me, they're both the same. When you talk about a little bit clunky, they're even in front, just by the pictures in a way. There's no, what's the thing that they call when they do different styles on the front of the house? What are they? Elevation, that's it. I really don't see elevations, especially in the first one.
I think
Really,
time the trees get, the
The-
landscape
yeah.
gets grown, it'll change the whole image.
if
The trees get up.
the trees.
Yeah.
Grow.
Now, I have one more question on SF2 before we go to SF3. How did you feel about the different garages? Did you have a preference on whether the garage was in the front or you didn't see a garage at all?
I don't have a preference. I think it depends on what the developer wants to do with that particular area. Some places, some developers may want it so that the garage is in the back. The problem I see with that, then they're gonna have to build out front, out behind it. So you've gotta have an alleyway or something to get in. But to me, I think as long as they're following our regular guidelines, it's up to the developer. He may wanna put in one that everybody goes into the map. I don't think it should be mixed,
No, yeah, definitely.
most definitely.
Just uniform.
Uniform.
Yeah,
I
just
agree.
uniform.
For sure.
But
All one
I
front,
don't
one
have a
back.
preference.
Well, typically, they don't build them in the back, but if you look, most of them would be built to the side. And that's kind of, the way that they're built in the mini courts now, so you come in and actually park to the
Yeah,
side, so you can't even see it's a
Your
garage.
lot gets wider, yeah.
But I think too, with the alleys now that I've seen and heard is some of them are struggling, for first responders, whether or not it's easy to block that to get the access,
Yeah,
into those alleyways, especially while construction's ongoing. Most oftentimes those alleys are blocked.
Mhm.
And so it takes a long time for them to even stabilize, and then, you got narrow points, most of the time you've got sprinklers on corners.
They tend to pick up the garbage there too, don't they? Is it general?
It tends to be rather difficult to pick up trash there, sir.
Yep, okay. Next one, SF3. We'll start with JB, Jeff.
That's first responders.
I mean, I like,
The first one.
I like the first one. Can't tell if that's like a balcony or what, but maybe not.
I think it's a fake balcony.
A fake balcony. I think it's a fake balcony. Then I also really like the little duplex with the red and the blue door. I think it's very subtle, and I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this image did not make it, so.
Yeah,
maybe
Yeah,
I'm-
the
That's
blue
like
red door.
Yeah, the blue ring.
Yeah.
That was my third one.
Not the, yeah.
That was my first one too, and I think that yields more of an opportunity for multifamily, mother-in-law type things, that would look nice and it could be that close.
Perfect. We'll go back to trustee and friends.
For SF3,
SF3, yes.
yeah, what is it?
well, the same one, we
went
went with the
third one.
third one, just like they did.
That's
It's
not on there.
that's not showing on there.
Yeah, we kind of like the third one. Again, we're kind of looking at
We're
uniform.
looking at second and third.
Yeah, the second, third.
Second, third.
I really like the second one. I like the looks of the second one. So my question is there's not a garage or is it in the back?
These little strips here in this one, this is probably out from back east or something.
Yes,
Um,
that's what they did.
It could lead to a detached garage in the back. Like my grandma had an old house from the 30s.
Yes,
A one
yeah.
car house in the back. Or, like Jeff was saying a while ago, it could be on the side. And you pull in on the side, so your garage door would face your gate. Or it could just be carport or something. But it's probably in the back,
Yeah.
detached. Because this lot is probably maybe 35 feet wide,
Yeah, it's
30,
pretty
35
small.
feet. We were looking, that's actually the lots you have plotted in Old Town from the original plot being outside the door. They're only 35 feet wide, 35 feet wide, which was a very common lot size before the war.
So something else that we can start thinking about now that we're getting out of the single-family detached zones, we're starting to mix in some of this missing middle housing. I noticed that y'all like the second and third pictures, so are we comfortable with around 2 stories in this district? 2 stories?
Two stories.
It needs to be,
No more than two, you know that.
to give the adequate square footage for a family, it's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to go up because you can't go out.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on SF3 from this group?
We was just agreeing on the 2-story. It's the way that it needs to be to give the family the square footage.
They could have a small one story,
They could,
but
but
it's not gonna look right.
it definitely wouldn't look right, I don't think. I think it for
I don't know.
uniformity, I would
Eli
go
could probably make it look right.
two-story.
Yeah, I'm okay with 2 stories.
Okay.
Last group.
We're with it. Except for the alleyway, we talked a little bit about alleyways, where they've gotta have places to park the vehicles. There is no place on number 4, and,
Mhm.
up there on 1. And out of those, then try to figure out, well, how much space do you give them?
Mhm.
I mean, is it gonna be the width, the whole another piece of concrete, the whole length of that complex, or that apartment complex, or how we gonna do it? We have to decide exactly
Yeah.
how we go with that, but that's kind of where we were at on that. I don't, personally, I don't care to see any fake porch.
Like like
That
the
first
one
one,
there.
you know, I don't think that's,
Non-functional.
It's
not- yeah,
architecture,
it's
architecture.
you know, really. But
So-
if you
I-
want to go,
At first I thought it was real, but I was like, it's not real.
I wanted to see how you could get to it without going through the window.
Yeah, so I was like, it's not
As
real.
in the SF1 district, we talked a lot about impervious cover and greenery, right, and how much space there was, and out there it's easy, right?
Right.
If you're building a house big enough to feel like you have a lot of pavement, on a 1 acre lot, it's a big house. Here though, it'd be pretty easy, right? I mean, these lots, we'll talk about it more next month, but in theory, they could be 3,500 square feet, large, which is about half, the size of a single family lot we see now. Or, even on a single family lot, new single family lot now, you get 55% impervious cover, right? That's when you put the house in, driveway, sidewalk up to the door. That's a lot of pavement, a lot of concrete. These little trees here, they're situated in just the right spot between all the utilities and the So as you think about lots this small, and you think about places in town you could use this district, or you could imagine somebody wanting smaller lots, duplexes, townhomes, would you like to see more impervious cover there, or less impervious cover? Want to see more greenery, less greenery? Do you want to see where all the cars are parked? Or do you want to see the cars put away?
I don't think it makes a difference to me where they park their car, as long as it's not on the street or blocking an alleyway.
With single family mix, I'll say that I'm not a huge fan of the tiny little single car garages facing the street. I do like the appearance of all the other buildings, so I guess, I would probably lean towards hiding the cars from someone, or the garages, but definitely not parking on the street.
All right, and are you all ready to move to MF1?
Yes.
Perfect.
Somebody send them a list.
We'll start back back to
With us? Well, first of all, we thought picture number 1 was from somewhere around the 1960s, somewhere in there, so.
stylistically, yes.
That stylistically, so that didn't do anything for any of us. We talked about 2, 3, and 4. We like 4 best because we want to see either brick or stone. We want to see a structure that's tighter, better made.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we picked 3 or 4. So.
It's got greenery now.
And it has greenery, and it looks like number 3 is a little closer to the street, but you can't tell, like, again, and of course, we don't have that view of 4, ours is cut off.
Oh, it is.
It is cut off, so it looks a little different when you
That's
can see.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, so.
Oh, go ahead.
We also liked the 4th one. I like the Great Myrtles. I also like the differing textures of the different buildings. There's a lot of variety there, and it's appealing to the eye. So I thought it looked really good.
What about did the size of the building have anything to do with it for you?
You can tell that they're all the same floor, but you can still see the variety of the rooftops, and I thought, that variety is nice. So I'd say that, I guess.
What if this didn't have a 3rd floor?
I don't know. Doesn't have to.
So would it look basically the same?
Would you still feel the same about it if it had a 3rd floor? in the MF1 district, thinking about where it's supposed to go, what it's supposed to do.
So that's the bigger difference.
Probably,
I don't think I would have a
It
problem with
wouldn't
it.
make a difference.
Definitely the second one's more of like a McMansion, because it looks like a house. The one that you talked about, if you went
Yeah.
3 stories with that, it really.
It'd be like a castle.
Yeah,
It-
it really looked like, that's a great description. So the fourth one, for me, would be, I think that would still be, 3 stories is not a deal breaker.
I think that would give us a good
I don't think-
difference between
Yes.
the sub
I might be wrong, but I don't think we felt like you ought to go for 2 stories. What you had right there was okay, we could live with that, but if you went 3, it'd just be too much. Especially if it, depending on where it's set in town. You put some of those single level houses, that blocks a lot of sun, and when you block that sun, if they're trying to grow a yard or something, now their ability to raise, have a green garden or whatever, you just put it in, you just close it off, but no sunlight. It can, depend on how it sets.
So
That 3rd story would vary it.
So let me ask you a question about MF1. So typically in MF1, are the residents responsible for the yards, or is it a company, like apartment companies have?
I feel like I typically see it where the company is responsible for it.
Okay, so they just,
Yeah, sometimes these are rented, and then
Yes.
of course they have maintenance and staff.
Right,
you know.
right.
But even with a condominium, folks wouldn't have a place to store their own lawnmower, so usually the condo association takes care of it.
okay.
I like number 1, nobody likes number 1. It's 1 story, okay, I just look at it as, it's easy to build, you can put firewalls in there, you're gonna get retired people and or rent control people that are on a sliding scale, that kind of a thing.
But the,
Assisted living.
but you wouldn't, the financial,
And that really, I mean,
a developer to be able to build something like that.
Let's get through our last group here. Do you have any thoughts?
it's pretty much, we felt the same, but like I said, I don't think we felt like 3 stories was needed on that particular setup there.
I
Two is enough.
do have a question, because in our picture, I can't quite see the parking as well in these pictures. So for the one we talked about, is that parallel parking outside of the building? Is that where the residents would park?
Yes, this one has parallel parking in the front. If you flip to MF2, Jonathan, that would contrast with, like this one, which would have like 98 parking in
The
the front.
regular,
Yeah.
regular cars.
So there's a kick to that, Temple, Texas.
This one is probably in a complex, but the drive aisle is probably designed to flip more to the street.
Gotcha.
So I'm hearing on the MF1, the Fed tie back, think about where this district is gonna be found, what it's next to, probably another 2-story home. We probably don't want another home. Perfect. MF2, let's start with you guys.
Well, we didn't really get to that too. I think this is where it's probably okay with it going at 3 stories. It looks like everything's 3 to 4 stories. But I probably don't wanna go higher.
I wouldn't go for it.
Yeah.
I'm a public supporter.
He's not a fan of
Because
going higher.
anybody around you is gonna be in the dark. I mean, you can't see the sun come up or go down. I mean, that's my thoughts. And people have a smaller home, they want a little space. And it's next to an apartment deal, you got 3, 4 stories, you just cover them up. And that's not why they moved there.
What if I'm 4 stories tall, but I'm 100 feet away from the property?
From where?
The
Property line from other homes.
From the backyard.
I don't know if 100 foot would be enough. I'm serious.
No,
I'm serious. Look at how the shadow.
Mhm.
I mean, to me, I don't know if you have enough. I I just, if it's got a specific area, and maybe it's close to an industrial, that's fine, put it in there. But if it's homes next to it, no.
Well, if it's just an area, a bunch of 4 or 5 story homes.
All right there together, and next to industrial, then it doesn't affect the small home. And I don't have a problem with if you put something like that, and go your 4 stories if that's what you want. I still like it, because I'm old and I can't find those.
Figure out where the shadow is, and then the parking lot there.
exactly.
What's the parking lot, the shadow?
Goes to industrial or commercial, because oftentimes those are,
Yeah. Commercial would
it
be,
reminds me of the area in Georgetown where you see all those complexes leading out Wolf Ranch. A lot of the people probably live there, work there.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
There you go.
Let's go with Jamie and Jeff.
Okay, well, I'll go first, all right, I like 3. And I like 3 because it's more modern. It's 2 stories, the balconies are functional. And I just like the more modern look. I think we ought to do a little of that.
I circled, the second one, I did like the small brick wall and the landscaping there. I will say that the parking on the 4th one, I think was okay. I mean, if you've got a big parking lot in front of the, I mean, I can't see the full picture and see like the parking lot in front of the property, but I imagine if there's a large property, that's not just like a street going by there. I do like that. I like the look of the brick and the roofing as well.
Is there, with that being said on the parking, you see it both ways, it would be like literally on-street parking or enter the complex and have parking? 'Cause what am I seeing on
Yeah.
that 4th picture, is that like,
You kind of see it both ways these days. You can have kind of your traditional apartment complex where it's got 2 gates, you go in, and then you drive around the parking lot till you get to the building floor. There are a lot of cities now who are requiring you to kind of deconstruct that complex back into like a series of streets. So instead of like driving one way in through a gate, you feel more like you're driving through a neighborhood. But until you saw apartment buildings, but maybe they're brought up to the street, feels less like a compound. So it could go either way.
I like the open look, I don't like the closed look, the compound look myself, just personal preference.
It's, you know, I'm not, we got, you get them too close together, too big, now you become how you gonna handle a fire in these complexes? I mean, that becomes a pretty big problem in some areas. It could be a devastating here, or something like that, and I don't like flat roofs, because they always have a tendency to leak.
Well, multi-family, don't they have like the sprinkler systems?
Yes, all these we were assuming would meet fire
What
code.
up to code, yeah.
But I mean, there was a complex that just burned in Cedar Park this summer, wildfire. All right.
I agree, I don't like flat roofs. We had a flat roof in West Texas and it was a pain in the
That was
butt.
a big thing in West Texas.
Yeah.
Well, they tend not
It's
to
bad.
use shingles on these flat roofs anymore. They use TPO and that doesn't leak. That's what they use on the big stores.
It wasn't single, they don't.
We like the second one too.
Yeah, we like the second one.
Second one's pretty pretty.
Well, it's got some variation to it, it doesn't look like a cookie cutter, you know, it's just, it has class to it.
Okay,
I would say that the third one does, it does actually, it could fit the modern for today's living for a lot of folks.
I appreciate that, Jim.
I do agree, I like 2 better, but I can see where the 3 comes in.
We have one more wrong for stone.
all right, our last one, mobile home, I'll open it up to the floor here.
I'll start, I like the car on number 3. The little car one, actually, I like that one, yes.
Yeah.
that's the one.
Oh, okay, well, I like the, I guess I can see a little bit more of the neighborhood in some of these, and I liked, how clean the second one looked. There's not a lot of grass there as opposed to the one that Jeff picked, but it does have some plants and stuff. And, I don't know, it looked very clean, very nice. I think that would be really important for any manufactured housing area, to keep it that way.
That's probably what we did, for, one was, had the parking, and then still some greenery, but not as much as far as the inside.
I think all that looks fine as long as it's held to the same standards as your single family home. I mean, just because you're in a manufactured home, it doesn't mean you're not, it's not a home. So like, I like it that all of them have the side skirts, can't see underneath it, and they make all these houses look like people actually care about their lawns.
Yeah.
And there's stuff there, it's not tires and crazy stuff all over.
As you think
That
about,
would be the thing, what are we able to say, you need to have it this way? If you're going to have a manufactured home, either a community or a 1 acre piece of property, then you better think about that.
Oh, yeah.
If this 2 acre property that somebody wants, they're gonna stick one of those on there, maybe. Just depends. So are we able to say, hey, you have to have,
we can always dictate things like building orientation, building placement, so your setbacks, impervious
Skirting.
cover. Skirting, what do you think?
Well, I mean,
I think it's more of a building code thing.
So there's specific rules in the HUD code that gives us what we can and cannot dictate, and I think skirting we can dictate, but we can't force them to like brick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
okay.
But the
Okay.
skirting just
So we-
looks like it makes it complete.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing is, I like the distance between the trailers,
That's good.
because
Manufactured
having
homes.
been on the fire department a number of years, that trailer house is burned around 15 minutes.
Very quick.
15 minutes, is all it takes. That's single wide now, that's not
Yeah,
double.
that's not a double.
But that we need the space, because with it being setting off the ground, just like a pier and beam, it gets the draft, and those go quickly.
Gets the
And,
feel.
so,
Okay, so what about building orientation? If you notice all these are turned with the short side of the street, would you have any concern if they had the long side towards the street?
I think it's just uniform. I mean,
that would be, I don't know if that would be visually appealing with all the single wides right at the street. Maybe he wants to be opposite on some, to give it some sort of, do you want it the same thing for how long down the street do you want those to go? Or do you want it to look a little different as you go down? Do you want some to be long ways and some, which way?
If you go long ways, then you're taking up a lot of your lot, and you're not gonna have a lot of space between those. So I agree that it needs to be, I think it needs to be that way, because we're not talking big lots anyway. And you take an 80-foot trailer, turn it,
yeah.
then you can just walk out of your front door into your neighbor's
Yeah, exactly.
without taking a step. So unless it's a huge lot, I say no sideways.
Well, frankly, I've never seen manufactured homes, the fronts of them look like that. I think I'm gonna say you will find the tires, you will find find a half a cow up there or something. But my statement to that is my predecessor, Roger Wenzel, if anybody would remember Roger. We had a few disagreements on what turned out to be the Roger Wenzel redneck rule. And that's if you're gonna integrate this kind of thing, you can't complain about the guy who has the goat in his yard and 4 old cars up on a block.
So, let me to my next question.
But
Can, one of the things I like was the paved driveway. Are we able to have that as
Yeah,
part of what
Every
we're,
mobile home.
Yeah.
so it gives it more of a residential, just gives it more of that.
More
so the question for Ann
That's very
is,
true.
residential feel.
and they still need
Not a
sidewalks.
trailer park.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
so lead sidewalks,
Definitely
that's
the
great.
paved driveway.
I think the one thing that we want to be careful of is,
Erase
just
something?
because they're living in manufactured housing doesn't mean that they didn't spend as much as somebody else.
Or it is getting
And
expensive.
so, I mean, it's not,
I've done some of these that are nicer than the house I grew up in.
that's exactly right. So, you know, I'm not a fan of HOAs by any means, in fact, I don't like HOAs. But, I think we want to be sure that we strive to make them just as nice looking as we do our brick and mortar.
So y'all brought me to my next question. What is important as you think about when you think about the position you'll be in, when somebody comes to P&Z Council to ask for MH zoning, what kind of things are important to you in determining where it's appropriate in Jarrell? You know, do you want it to be on certain types of roads? You know, do you want it to be on main roads or local streets? Do you want it to be near Old Town, away from Old Town? On 35, away from 35? Anywhere you want a regular neighborhood?
Put them next to storage buildings.
Well,
I think that's important.
I feel like, so say someone buys a lot and it had an original home there, but if they make it look like a home, I don't really see a problem with a manufactured home.
What about the person that's living there beside it that doesn't want?
Well, I mean, they don't own the property, right, so. I mean, but it's not just.
Well, I think what I hear from you is that if it looks and matches the feel of the lot next to it.
Cause I mean, they're just as expensive as the build of a brick and mortar home now too, I mean.
And they're built better.
That's what I'm saying, but, cause I mean, say you have the old house, right, you have an old house, that new manufactured home, they come in there, they do the driveway, and it might look just as nice, the only difference is the origin is, they moved it there.
But it does affect the value of the home that's next to you, because it's considered manufactured housing, so it does affect the total.
That's the only thing I'm
appraisal.
trying to.
I
totally agree.
The idea of it being uniform, it being a neighborhood and not just somebody's dropping a manufactured house
Exactly.
somewhere
that
else.
sounds like it's a.
So it,
I don't
making,
want
making
somebody
larger
dropping-
spaces dedicated to just manufactured. If we're gonna have manufactured housing, have it like the neighborhood, it looks nice.
Like
you know,
Troy's
yeah,
deal.
dedicated.
So it
Yes.
sounds like we would support a minimum district size, where
Yeah.
you couldn't just take a lot in Old Town, quarter acre lot, zone it MH.
Yes.
You know,
That's
maybe
correct.
maybe you need to have a larger 2 acre, 3 acre plus chunk.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
all right, we did it. We did it, we got through the resolution on this. Do y'all need a quick break, or you just wanna keep going?
I need a break.
Quick 5-minute break.
No two-story mobile home. Hey, they make them. They make them.
Hey, we're gonna have to address it.
Where do you want? Please be back in your seats at 7:39.
Go take your break.
Nobody gets shot, nobody gets. Good day.
Lots of good feedback there. Don't worry, we get group tour.
Hope things will walk in. Did you hear about that? Yeah, but she's not taking care of it now. I had Rick Flowers, she's gonna cry.
Well,
So the one cool thing that I've been approached with and Russ, you have a lot of growth at doors. And the employees will go and shut all down, so I have a fluctuation where you see it where it's like your daughter might like, one of them, I see a bunch of older girls, I'm like, oh, awesome, I just get bus ride as opposed to, yeah, the male dominant, that's why I tell them, I don't want to, that's why. So you did it here for them, I'm like, hey, I mean, I'll go get Master Daniel and stretch you, and I'm the enforcer, right? But as far as like a curriculum, a lot of the kids show up, and each one's a completely different personality, so they all teach differently, so it helps with like the kids coming home, these kids gravitate to cross, okay, well, kind of having these mentors, that one. Yeah, they kind of know what to do, and even my daughter, what they Oh, yeah. So, the bankers are hiring themselves, like, oh, crap, they're scary, and one thing that we do is a lot of kids take advantage of it, essentially for free time. They come up there and they'll pick the bag, they'll do flips, they'll play with your friends, depends on the day, any serious kids in there, it's like, there's no playing, you can do what they do. But we don't
I do think it was.
We highly encourage it, a lot of HOAs, since I have it in their membership. So one of our senior Alright. They can't, right, but somebody can sue for an alcohol. Somebody can sue if you don't follow the restrictions. They can take
Affects everybody. You chose to be in the competition. Oh, that's what I said. You knew it when you watched ours on your mind. Before you signed up.
So we've gone around some of the.
Well,
it's a different level.
Alright, well, we'll go back to your seats.
One fighter. It's the way you carry yourself, when people look at you, as opposed to.
No, I heard,
If you know, if a person confident in power, walks into a classroom, she's like, throw the backpack down. The bully's not gonna be like, that's the one I want, right? It's the one that's like, oh, don't leave me alone. That's all it is, it's confidence, so that's good.
7 o'clock.
Alright, so.
They're doing a great job. I know.
I'm working on
I
it.
got pretty.
Okay, come on.
Alright, so, that was, the residential component of this was definitely the longest part of the evening. The commercial districts and special districts are certainly gonna go a lot faster. We'll go through the districts and then do the same exercise as last time. Sound good?
Okay.
Alright, So Jonathan, if you go to C1. So the C1 district, from the existing C1 you have today, we're really not proposing to change much. This is the district that you're gonna be comfortable using directly adjacent to single-family neighborhoods. This may be a one-off pad site, a small strip center right at the front of the neighborhood, or if you think about Old Town, or the SF3 district, this may be something that you could imagine inside the neighborhood, creating a corner store, coffee shop, bakery, in the center of the neighborhood. So you can envision these in all sorts of different ways. But on the permitted use table, you'll find that these are really gonna have uses that don't generate a lot of traffic or that would be convenient services. So daycare, dry cleaners, banks, nothing really auto-oriented, something that you wouldn't mind having close to home or in front of your neighborhood. Design standards here we would expect being in scale with a single-family home. So you'd expect the height to match a single-family home. You would expect setbacks to include some buffering and landscaping around there to make sure it works.
And this one has replaced the downtown commercial, so we renamed it general commercial. And so just kind of,
Excuse me, that,
sorry, this
this,
originally was your downtown commercial district, and we changed it to the general commercial.
okay,
And we'll talk about the overlay districts later that will kind of make up for that. But with this district, you get a little bit more intensive commercial uses. So think in between that neighborhood commercial and sort of a big box retail store. So this would be maybe a little bit closer to single family, but not necessarily adjacent. So something that wouldn't drive as much traffic, but still provide a certain amenities like a Dollar Tree or a Walgreens like that we have here. Yeah, so we mentioned here it would be appropriate maybe in the downtown area with that downtown overlay that would have a little bit more additional standards that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate in a general commercial zoning district.
so what do you call it downtown? Cause you haven't decided, I mean, how do I know whether I like that? And where you call it to fit in down, what I call downtown is maybe than what you're calling downtown. So let's define it so that I can kind of put that in that.
Sure. So we have that section at the end, but I'll tell you, I'm talking with Jordan and Danielle. What we're not doing in this process is defining where downtown is. We're not defining.
Chicken up.
Yes, we do. But what we are doing is simply setting it up and putting it in your UDC so that whenever you are ready to define where downtown is, you can make that.
If you decide.
Yes, sir. If you decide. Yes, sir.
Well, if I might elaborate, a lot of that is that we need more input from residents to define that, and so we felt like that needed its own separate process.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to see how this, I visualize Old Town as downtown for me, but just from the looks of what you're doing, that's not downtown, you're saying here's downtown.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is regardless of what we identify as downtown, we're looking for a look. So if it's up by Ronald Reagan or whatever, you're just looking for a look for the general commercial.
Yes. So the uses that we've included in the permitted use table on C2, and the way we've written this description, this includes uses and things that are going to attract people from several different neighborhoods across town to a place, right? So you think about the C2 district out on like Bud Stockton Loop, right? That's not going to be a 60-acre Wolf Ranch town center, right? It's not going to have a giant Target and everything in it, but it's a small center, large enough to maybe have kind of an anchor, small-scale anchor, and include goods and services like a Walgreens, right? Walgreens isn't small enough, you have one per neighborhood, you've got one for kind of collection neighborhoods, right? So that same concept can then be applied to downtown, right? So in downtown, what we propose is that you would have a base zoning district of C2, which would give you all your permitted uses. Then what we can do next month is write an overlay district for downtown. So you put that on top, and then you get to modify your design standards so that your downtown looks however you like. If you think about your typical strip center out on the edge of town, it's very suburban, right? You've got your lot, you've got a building probably stuck to the back with a loading area, and then a parking lot in front. Think about most downtowns you've been in, what we typically think of when we mean downtown, is you've got an area that's walkable and puts pedestrians in front of cars. So what you would do is really the opposite. Your overlay district would say, you know, your building has to be brought up to the street. You're gonna have to provide an extra large sidewalk to accommodate the number of pedestrians you're gonna have. You know, you're gonna have to look a certain way, you have to be 2 stories. You know, we'll talk about that next week, but really what we're imagining is that overlay district is gonna modify your C2. In some ways that simplify things, because, you know, when folks call Jordan, she's not gonna have to have 2 different zoning districts memorized in her head. She just has to know one, and they know how it changes when she's downtown. Did that answer your question? A highway commercial C3, this is where we propose the opposite. This is where everything is totally auto-oriented, right? This is where you have your big box stores, your uses that generate lots of heavy auto traffic, and your description reflects that, right? We don't want this zoning district directly adjacent to single-family homes, right? You would not want to live behind an HEB or a Walmart or a Target. You would not want to live behind a hospital. You would not want to live behind whatever else we have listed here, right? Correct. So these are things that are going to be heavy auto generating uses that will draw people from across your city, but they're also going to draw people from the communities around you, right? So things like a hospital, they certainly don't just serve folks in Jarrell, they bring people from Wahlberg, Spark, wherever. So.
What would you consider a funeral parlor?
You know, I hear funeral parlor go both ways, Jonathan. What do you think?
Not too sure.
As long as you're not going, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not the main event. I feel like with funeral parlors, one, it creeps people out, so they don't want it near their home. But depending on the size of the funeral parlor, they can generate substantial amounts of traffic. And so you certainly don't want them in neighborhoods. You want them on major roadways, but you also. No crematory.
It smells.
Yes.
It smells.
But you don't want them taking up valuable retail space, right? You don't want them at a hard corner, right? So it's tricky to find a place for them.
How come you didn't have any restaurants in there? Anything you showed us? Did you see it?
All of the unhealthy stuff, coffee, donuts.
It's so good.
No, I'm teasing.
Okay.
But C2, C3 definitely restaurants, C1 restaurants, depending on the type of product they're providing.
One thing I'd like with that C2 though was dual usage, which I see a lot of bigger cities having, like the KFC and the whatever. That's pretty neat. I don't know if that's like a code that you implement that if you're, see how they're doing the Starbucks. I've never seen a commercial thing, but that's pretty neat that they do that. I know there's a lot of people do that.
Our next zoning district then would be business park.
So the business park would be, just kind of as the name suggests, you think the business park would go there, but this is also kind of the way we have it with the permitted use table, also kind of like an office district. It is a little bit flexible, so you could have maybe some smaller scale office buildings or longer sort of light, really light industrial, or you could get a larger office footprint. But essentially just having a district that an office park would want to go to and providing that option for them. Because sometimes, this wouldn't necessarily be appropriate in a commercial district, especially if it's that highway commercial district, which would allow for more of a larger building footprint, but you wouldn't necessarily want your business park to go on there because that's really valuable frontage road, right? So this might not necessarily be located there, but you still get that district to kind of decide where you want this to go in your city.
How much, you said that there's adequate buffering and context-sensitive design standards. Now, explain what that's pretty broad. You didn't want specific. We need something a little more.
Right,
I think we need to be a little more specific for Jordan.
Yeah, and the purpose statement is gonna be a little bit more broad, so when we talk about our design standards, like we will, that's where you'll get to kind of decide.
Okay.
So you think of buffering, you know, maybe requiring a certain width of a planting strip or trees. And in terms of design, you know, if you're next to a residential district, maybe it won't be 35 feet in height, and it will be like 1 story or something like that.
Okay.
Well, I like that fourth one, only because I think eventually you're gonna see, doctors of different specialties and that kind of thing, and that looks pretty much like how it would be.
Alright, like industrial, we really have not modified this one too much, from how it is, but we really just tried to create a difference between I-1 and I-2. As it is today, there's not a whole lot of difference. With I-1, we're really talking about industrial spaces gonna be large in scale. These buildings are, 100,000 square feet plus. I've seen them up here in Georgetown, Jarrell area, 500,000 square feet. Yeah, that's 5 of the brand new HBs in Georgetown. So these are big buildings, but here we're really looking at something that is more of an office park setting. You may have warehouse distribution, you may have lots of trucks coming and go. Pretty much all your activities are gonna be happening inside. And they're gonna be very light. You're not gonna be creating lots of noise, debris, you're not really processing anything. It's very much so, just large scale industry.
And then this general industrial, the I2, is just really more intense, more manufacturing style, where a lot of your heavier uses is gonna go. Obviously not appropriate next to residential, as it'll have more sort of outdoor storage, more truck movement, just really a more intense use than that I1 zone.
Yeah, maybe now we're processing raw materials, maybe we're manufacturing something, going through some sort of process. And I think the big thing here to keep would be the apple storage. Alright, so we'll do the same activity. This will be much shorter, I promise. We'll start with 10 minutes, and we'll come back and I'll run through it very quickly.
Started on C1.
I don't think that's gonna be
Well, I think residential.
That's a different question. So, I like this one, both agree on that, okay, it just seems to me that's a perfect, and the second was this, but, this is a little more. Yes, small restaurants, make a place. But obviously, it's a place where we have some. This is,
I feel like that would be something.
We're not gonna change
Where
that.
it would go.
When you got indoor,
Learning centers kind
It's generally more like big sports. Very nice. Oh, no, that's my second choice. Well, actually, okay, and then, second. But I like how it's laid out here. I mean, we come in, all the sound shop.
Well,
But-
Georgetown, they've got,
That
park it.
With some of these, is that you have.
It's trying to fit in. Right.
Yeah, and then you can use water, parking out there.
If this is gonna be.
Well, not
residential might not want to street. That's fine. Residential might not, that ain't gonna bother me. I had to look at that. This is different. That means buildings. Where do we park?
Typically, development like that.
So to me, that's what you're used to seeing. I mean,
See, that's what they're gonna do.
Two junior
Which is British.
two sets of
To me, that's where it wants to be. That one, I wasn't sure how to work so lots. I mean, I guess.
Over there.
There's something like that. One thing
Doesn't have to be a two-story, but
you want to see something.
If it's an every highway, you have highway, you have alleyway.
No.
But if it's highway, it's like right
Whole-
here,
the whole
you're looking for, the opposite side of the highway, you can see it.
Very, very.
You don't have a problem.
That's a good point.
They're not gonna be a high wattage.
So you really don't know what's behind unless you have where they are and they, go across. So that's cool. You're right.
What's worth more money to you? Retail.
A vision partnership.
Because they have
Now, to me, this is it, this is cheap. I know that's typical, not fancy, but that's.
This has a lot more eyes. If I was gonna build something, our new.
For the fact you go.
For me, I want
Yeah, I think that's
something to
something.
blend into the neighborhood.
I think you everybody can show you the same thing you did.
Then you make some
That's why I was saying it was
But I think that this kind of layout, this is what you see, this is kind of layout where you've got like
Well, for me,
This is not exactly,
in an old town,
I'm looking at
First,
I don't think it's different. I think it's if they're coming in dropping the freight.
I would go.
Yeah, oh, crazy. So that's what it's like, so.
It looks like one of those, everything, all you see is. But Jim,
I should talk to
I
Barry.
really want it to be.
you got chicken. You got chicken.
That's what I think about that. Well, there's nothing.
This is what we got out here. We got
This is what, light industrial, everything's got inside this building.
I mean, that's what we have. I'm not even getting. So it's always where we are.
But you goes and change it overnight.
No, those are my one, two.
Put it in the
This to me, the number one, I squared, one of those.
Definitely.
That looks like a
Definitely.
straw.
Okay, 3 more minutes.
You'll be around.
3 more minutes.
I won't be like
You won't be around. All of us are.
Hey, you never know, you
I
never
was thinking if you
I
just
showed
showed
you
it,
something on the
maybe
fence.
it was. Yeah, you're the thing.
It would have to be.
Baseball.
It's just trying to-
Yeah. So these are the things that- I was looking at it, not just. And then this, I guess, water, this would be
I feel like this.
wastewater.
They had it up there.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, you got the fire
And
department,
it
so
was
they all
up there,
kind
they
of,
were showing the.
have their purpose, one stores, one water.
Yeah.
I was ready to fly the very first thing when I
We need
went.
We need.
Well, we could have.
It's not like.
It's better than before.
Well, here's my process, okay, to take down. All I was thinking.
All right, folks, 1 more minute, 1 more minute.
This is gonna be
But I would like to see you next Monday.
need for my checking.
It really is.
Wires, things like that. Again, we're a software company. And we have a lot of green space.
Yeah, they live there. They live in there.
So we're gonna allow them.
I don't know where the parking is.
That's where those 2-story houses
Well,
are.
we're gonna have houses in there, but
Right here.
pretty effective.
Just go to El Paso. They all came to be in
We'll see today. We have one.
They're living on the top floor, second floor. No,
I-
they didn't.
All right, 30 more seconds.
That all been out.
One more minute.
We're almost there. I promise
I laughed. That's rough.
And one of the things we look at is it takes up a whole block.
This is what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're
Real.
Yeah. So, now remember this,
This is full on.
this is full on.
Giddy up there, move along. Move along.
I think we're trying to picture like this, fine, or something like this, because it has the fencing.
Hey, giddy up there,
I like the loading and unloading.
That's a 4-0 job, so I got read out.
We don't know
Too many
what's
choices. Too many.
All right, let's bring it back together.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with, Jamie and Jeff this time. C1,
Go get back.
big takeaways.
Hey, I'm liking that, number one. With that, like the looks of it. And I think it serves the purpose for a neighborhood where you can walk by and you can find a dry cleaner, you can find things like that.
I liked that one as well as the one that has the pizza and mojo on it. It looks very nice. It looks very friendly to neighborhood type of area. So both of those I like.
I didn't like it for the umbrellas, okay, it's windy here. So, I'm kidding.
Are there different places in town you can imagine?
Yes, absolutely, no.
Where can you imagine this one?
I can imagine that. I don't know, I kind of do look at these and I think right off of where downtown would be, like maybe if we've got downtown areas, to be like, maybe like on one of those roads and just right outside of it. You know, in that kind of transitional area between where downtown might be and where maybe some residential might be.
Cool. I see that right next to Tractor Supply.
This one? Sure.
I can see it right up there on I-35,
Well, they kind
right
of,
there by the old mobile station.
they kind of have those connected to the gas stations already.
Well, think about it in contrast to, this one.
That is good.
Yeah, where could you imagine this one?
Downtown.
I think in a downtown area, a
Oh,
walking place, a place that's close, that's gonna be more pedestrian oriented, where the others are not as much pedestrian oriented.
This is your parking.
Yes, and I don't know how many people are walking around that.
Well, we saw that 3 is, inviting.
Yeah.
That was the feeling, they, it was invitational.
Kinda gives the feeling that we're going for in Jarrell.
Okay.
It's the family inviting.
Indoor, outdoor.
Indoor, outdoor, yeah.
What'd y'all think?
We did number 3 for the reasons, my fellow council person said. I think we said maybe number 1 in certain areas as well. For instance, in our neighborhood, over on the other side, we have a commercial in front of our neighborhood. I would like to see a number 3, probably not the feasible place to put it. Because it's a small neighborhood, so to speak, there's not a lot of other people that will walk there, maybe the truck drivers. But, number 1, I can see in front of our neighborhood, it would adjoin our neighborhood, I can see that one there.
This group?
We were kind of divided. Well,
Imagine that.
me and him kind of agreed, we liked, number 4 for, depending on, pretty much it was the location. We liked the other ones, but, as far as these, kind of like it blends into like, regular housing, as you can see, maybe people who live there, it doesn't stand out and say, I'm a business. So it just depends on the location, if this is really close to, even though it is, you know, this would make a little more sense, it's like, you know, therapy or specific in more residential areas as opposed to like, this is like across the street. So it just depends on location, but we didn't really have a problem with any of them.
He spoke.
What was the other side of the spectrum?
Well, he didn't
Wanting some of that.
particularly like the home,
How are you gonna handle it?
or he liked the way that it was commercial as opposed to the home with our own.
To blend,
Yeah,
the more residential style of it.
And I think one thing that you don't see on this image is that this is only showing a building with 2 units. But if you look at the overall complex, you see multiples. I think that's just a duplicate of
yeah.
that.
It's a bunch of
Yeah, this is
homes
actually
around.
in Lee.
Meander.
And that invites a lot more small businesses to.
Yes, you nailed it.
Which is just the back end, it doesn't have any out.
Which is cost is probably cheaper.
It's
for those.
mundane.
Oh, that's not good, that's a big.
But it is giving a purpose for the residents that are a quarter to a half a mile from their home, those type of places. Because this particular commercial, these aren't necessarily coming from the highway, these are just our residents that live within the city. Now, of course, somebody from the highway could come in there, this is more just for us.
Yeah, this is right in front of your neighborhood, this is right from your neighborhood.
Yeah. I noticed none of y'all said, the AT&T store. That one looks super commercial, like almost like a C2. Yeah.
I don't think of neighborhood.
It doesn't fit in the neighborhood. It is commercial, no doubt about it. It absolutely qualifies as a commercial development.
This one is actually quite a bit larger than the others, does that have?
I think that's what it was.
Taller.
Felt like a C2.
That one might belong in general commercial, maybe.
Would any of y'all have been different if it said AT&T and let's just say it said Starbucks on the other side, sort of like the other one that was shown?
That wouldn't have made a
It
difference.
wouldn't have made a difference.
Well,
Not for neighbors, no.
I think, I like where you're going with it, maybe instead of it being AT&T, pretend there's no logo there, but instead of pavement and parking lot around it, well, what would you think about it if it looked more like this, where it had like a wide sidewalk in front of it?
Or
Maybe
if
some
it came
trees.
up to
That would be an improvement.
Yeah, that would be an improvement.
What if it came up to the edge of the street and the parking lot was just behind it?
No, 'cause, I mean, depending on where it's at, then you could be having the parking lot that adjoins neighbors.
Okay.
So, you know, it just depends on where you're putting it and how deep you have to do that. And we want to reduce the noise and the lighting from these type, commercial areas in neighborhoods. Neighbors don't want the lights shining in their bedroom at night. Or, you know, they don't want a lot of traffic close to them. So I don't see it as being parking in the back.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, C2, sorry.
Okay, well, we didn't really come to a consensus on this. I mean, we did agree amongst ourselves, but we really liked, 3 and 4 together. We liked 3 kind of as the outside area, and then maybe in the parking lot area, you had something, the little standalone, like, not necessarily Starbucks, but, you know, in the little bank and stuff. So we kind of liked both of those.
Okay.
I agree, I think we agreed on those. The others, the other two, I mean, it's commercial. That's their logo, that's the way their stores are designed, it's commercial.
Yeah.
And that's not for residential areas, I mean, to me, of course, that's not what it's on there.
I think we both circled, number 4. I do like number 4 more than number 3, and I could see them being mixed, but, I know that you know where Target is in Georgetown, and, there's, kind of that type of area, restaurants and businesses and that kind of thing, I do like.
And I think you can see it from the highway or from wherever you are, you know what's there.
Now, all these tend to be about the same height. This is probably the shortest building. This is probably a 15, 18 foot tall building. These are all in the 25 to 35 foot range.
They're kind of false fronts on top. So.
Yeah, so knowing that info and thinking about how large these are, you know, would y'all have any concerns if you put these directly next to a single family home or an apartment complex?
How far away do you be?
Wouldn't have a problem with an apartment complex at all.
Yeah. Okay.
That shouldn't be an issue with any of.
If it was multi-family, multi-floor apartment complex, and it's a similar height, you know, I don't see any problem at all.
But not single family. Again, you've got road noise, traffic noise, you have light noise. I don't think you want that by a single family. Apartments, yes.
That's why you're going back to the C1 for the single family. I don't see
Yeah, I
any
don't
reason why you would
see
have
any.
C2 by any single family.
Yeah, I wouldn't want SF2 next to C2.
Now, what if it was next to something like NF1? Is there anything we could do to make it, you know, maybe it's something that looks more like a single family home, but it's still multifamily, it's still maybe a complex.
Maybe.
What would it take to, you know, if you had to write in conditions, you know, if you had to design this yourself to get.
So you're saying,
Yes.
C2 by MF1?
Mhm.
Is that what I would be fine with that too.
Is there anything you would expect, though? Would you expect a certain, would
Well,
you expect it to be more, for buildings to be closer or further apart? Would you expect there to be some sort of landscaping, something?
I expect that people will walk to some of these too, if it's gonna be a bank, or if it's gonna be something else.
Definitely the sidewalks, making sure that there's sidewalk adequate. If you're having this, if you're having that type of pedestrian type of use, you need sidewalks for sure.
I think we all ought to, every one of them ought to be landscape somehow. Draw at least some landscape.
I'll say there's, you
I
need
don't
some
care if it's a big
noise
park,
barriers.
but I think
Yeah,
landscaping
barriers.
adds to the aesthetics
Mhm.
of those buildings and adds to the businesses that run across big land.
What would y'all think if, and you have a C2 next to an MF1, and somebody wants a car wash?
A what?
Car wash.
No.
Why wouldn't you want that? When all those people sit there and don't have a way to wash their car, why would you not want that?
I don't know
Because
that
it's-
you want that, they.
Because it's not in a commercial area. We're talking about both two residential areas. And we're talking about putting, I guess, a car wash between two residential areas, I guess.
The water usage is gonna be a situation
Well, if you
anyway.
think about the
They
characteristics,
recycle.
think about the characteristics of a car wash.
The noise.
You've got the tunnel, you see in the tunnel, you've got the fans, you have the motors, you have
It's
the
the
wires.
noise.
Yeah.
Right, and then you probably have vacuum bays outside too, right? Lots of big lights, you know, it's lit up at night, so you do your car at night, you know. Typically, those aren't things that you would want next to,
A restaurant or anything.
to homes, right?
Yeah.
But in some cities, they'll say you could have a car wash as long as you build an 8-foot screen wall, or, you know, your lights meet certain criteria, or you have to provide documentation to us that your fans don't blow above a certain decibel level.
So those are the
Okay.
type of things,
Yeah.
those are the type of things that I'm thinking in my head of, if they wanted one there, it would have to be.
Yeah.
Like if it was like with the L.
Yes,
So,
Yeah.
if that L on
Right.
there.
So,
It'd have to be a big
So,
L.
is that something y'all could see happening in the C2 district, you know, in a strip center along, you know, Bud Stockton, you know, here in Jarrell? Or is that something you wanna move to other areas of the town?
Well, traditionally, like I see those, like HEB has a car wash, so it's more of a HEB type thing, or something bigger. Is what I normally see, like I'm going off to Georgetown, it's normally like, not in a strip like that, it's normally off on its own somewhere.
yeah.
And I thought it's kinda odd, by the car wash that we're building up.
Yeah, it is,
You have
it's right
a
next
car
to
wash,
Starbucks.
and then of course, Starbucks is always busy, so I
Yeah.
don't think that's bothering them, but then they have a little medical plaza behind it, so it's a little
Wash your car.
different, but it seems to be working.
Now, what if the car wash was a gas station?
I feel.
No,
so-
my
I feel
goodness.
so- I was actually gonna say earlier, I feel same way I would feel if it was a gas station.
Okay. Any more comments on C2?
So one thing you said, gas station, what about EV charging stations? Those are going everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And they gotta wash their car, and then they have to sit and wait.
So no gas
To
stations.
build a
but
library.
EV charging stations, because I know they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really regular. Yeah,
Right there by the beach, yeah.
but are we gonna allow them or not allow them? Because that's like a gas station.
Would you want to be treated like a gas station, or would you want to be treated like something different?
EV should be treated different. I don't have one. It
I-
should be,
I
but
get
I
it,
agree,
yeah.
it should be treated different because it doesn't make any noise. It's just a place for them to park. So that's
For
about
extended
You
periods.
saw some,
I
you saw some
agree.
equipment though, right?
Well, you gotta go in the feature.
the charging equipment deal.
Yeah.
I can see that being treated differently for sure.
Because they could easily go into these parking lots, into these different commercial parking lots. They could easily go into those parking lots.
Well, if we had it in general commercial, then they would at least have some place to go while they're fast charging. I don't know anything about
Well, that's
EVs,
like,
but I'm
gas
thinking
generator.
sitting in a vehicle, depending on if it's fast charging or not. I'm thinking sitting in a vehicle is boring.
I think it belongs to C3, no doubt. I would not put it in C2.
Can you tell me why?
Yeah, yeah, because people do it to park and then they wanna do something a little bit higher use than that. And good examples of that, I guess, are the mall that sits down. They have the charging stations and people go into the mall and they go shopping and then they come out.
I get that,
Yeah,
but
we
you're
already
going shopping.
And that's right
you
next
see
to a highway,
two-
because when your car's running out of juice, as we well know, it won't.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into C3 then, we'll keep us on track to finish. Alright, let's start with the back table.
Okay, well, we liked number 2. Which is the one with the Best Buy and, I don't know, the Bed Bath and Beyond, which, you know, doesn't exist anymore. And we liked that because it wasn't cookie cutter looking, and it had some dimension to it. So we liked that. We thought that that would give us a little variety and a little different look. Walkability too. Yeah, it's walkability, it's, pleasing to the eye.
I would echo everything that Rusty just said. Well, I feel the exact same way, as well as just that they're tall buildings. They don't necessarily have to be 2-story buildings, but if it's gonna be on I-35 or on a highway, high visibility, is important, so I would wanna see taller buildings. And kind of like, if we're gonna have height, I think it should be where the most traffic is, and then we can like taper down from there potentially with our zones. But I would look to highway commercial as being some of the tallest, or at least somewhat tall buildings.
I don't wanna agree with JP at all. I'm gonna go with the first one, and the first one, again, is because of visibility, and you're in a highway, I wanna see what's going on. I don't want it to be screened. I want to be able to drive by and know what's in there if I'm driving by. And so that's my reason for that.
Now, if you think about like, I'm trying to think of an example. 1896 Ranch in Cedar Park.
Yeah.
Right, Target, 1431, 183. You drive by and you can look in the shopping center, and you can see each store. Looks all like this one.
Yeah.
Is that it? No, that's not. Okay, but then you look across, you see the parking lot, you see everything. And then that puts all of your back of house stuff, directly just behind it. Yeah. Now, if you think about other places, being down like 35.
1631.
Yeah, there are options where you could flip this, push the buildings up the street, so you kind of have the back of house up by the highway, and then you put all the parking and everything behind it. Now, it changes things a little bit, but that kind of gives you an idea of the options you can have, when it comes to large shopping centers like this.
No, we didn't have anything different, but it just hit me when y'all were talking about it. I don't really like any of that stuff. I know it's going to the way of the dinosaur, but I like malls where it's air conditioned. I hate the outlet malls.
Sorry, no, they're gone forever. But I get it, I get it.
They're still there. We just went to Lakeline Mall. I mean, they're still there. I see that they're kind of going away, but I don't understand what maybe y'all can tell me is the benefit of being outside. That way it's hot and it's raining and you're scattering to each one to get AC. I mean, it's.
I think the biggest thing is, if I want to go to Best Buy, I don't have to go into the mall per se. And I can go, most of the time, I think, with those strip malls, people know what they're going for, they know what store they're going for. But I do agree with you, the air conditioning is nice.
It's nice, right?
It is, like it is.
Well, I don't like them at all, okay? I just think it's the maps. I go into one of those places, I can't read the map. I'm trying to read it.
Okay, so, but maybe think about like the experience you have in places.
I think the second one gives you a better visual while you're going down the interstate. To me, it's more visual.
Because when you go over that overpass, you're not gonna see much if those buildings aren't tall.
And if you're going to the opposite, if you're looking across the other side of the highway, you still wanna be able to see businesses. And I really do like that second picture, and it's a little bit abstract, kind of like the way that the Best Buy is framed there, and how it all is laid out. It looks really nice.
It's very dimensional.
Yes.
Just a good call.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, that's what we're saying, we pretty much explained there,
Any special considerations we should take into account from the way it was looked from the road?
Landscape.
Landscape,
Yeah.
great.
I think we have a landscape everything. I mean, I
You've
think
said that several times.
I have, and it's because that's one of the things on our master plan.
Yeah.
Is that our town had old town feeling, and landscape adds to the beauty of our town. We need some beautification in our town.
And they gotta water it.
So that's.
That's another problem.
Well, depending on what you put in.
Okay, while we're on this table here, what y'all think about the business park?
Too tall.
Too tall?
I want that third one is way too tall.
Yeah, he doesn't,
We need
he
another
doesn't
one.
want them that tall.
These two?
Yeah.
Well, the
third
fourth one on the right there, that's okay, but no more than 3 stories, that other one's way too,
Okay.
it's way too tall. And I just submitted that.
Can y'all, I'm gonna ask you, can y'all see this being used adjacent to single family, or no?
Well, I'm gonna say yes, in terms of a medical building, in terms of, your dentist here, I mean, you see them all the time. And, they'll be right next to a hospital, it'll be residential, and then they'll have the doctor park right there.
I think if you've got an area that's green and you have a bunch of trees, like not just like a row of like single file trees, but maybe like, a decent amount of space and some trees, I feel like you could potentially put a single family. If it was far enough away.
Transition?
Yeah, if there was enough of a buffer of trees and stuff like that, I think you could make it work.
Could it still be 3 stories?
I think it could still be 3 stories.
Yeah,
I think it could be, depending on where that shadow falls, I think it could be higher than 3 stories, but, just me, but, if it's tall enough to cast a shadow on a house, probably the house is too close.
Back to
We liked the second picture, but I am going to make one point, because we couldn't see in these pictures, the third picture. I know that that's more than 3 stories, but it has a parking garage. And I like the idea of a parking garage. I think that is an excellent use of space.
Okay. Then just having the conveyed surface lot.
I mean, they're probably still gonna have a service lot, because there's some trucks that can't go
Visitor
in those.
parking, big trucks.
But I like using that space for parking.
Okay.
So, the rest of you chime in. We had trouble, I think, with this one, because we couldn't see the whole picture.
But the usage of the space for parking is a big plus.
That's a big plus.
I like the third picture the most, and I think the parking garage helps significantly, to just make it look, just keeps it compact, and I think that it's okay to go taller when you can do that.
And taller when you have a parking garage.
When you have a parking garage, and, helps that there's really tall trees around it, it makes it look not so, out of place and crazy tall and stuff, if you've got some nice landscaping around it that's also tall.
And I think that's usually not a single unit. I think when you go to a business park, you're gonna have 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about the I-1 and I-2 together. If we can. Start with this table. High-level comments.
I think we need this. Everybody agrees we need this for Jarrell. Just needs to have its own area. I mean, that's lots of noise, lots of chemicals, lots of things that should probably be separated.
Is there anything special we need to think about on where these go or how they look?
But one thing we talked about was also parking, make sure that the ratio is for space versus, fire parking. You know, in some cases, they get a little too crowded, so
Mhm.
when they have some spacing or, you know, traffic to go through and out.
I'd like to see the trucks that are delivering and picking up, the big trucks, I'd like to see those not in the front,
Mhm.
but in the back. I think a better view of the building is what we would want. I don't think we wanna see all of Walmart's trucks parked out front.
So loading bay shouldn't face the street, they should face way. What if they face adjacent to the street?
Well, I think if you look at your light industrial that we're looking at, I think that's fine. I think number 4 actually is not bad. But if you just flip the page to light into general, you have the third picture there, and that is really, what you can put on the side.
Yeah.
And
that
it's got
was
a
what we
fence.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like the privacy fence on that one.
Okay, so if we turn to the side.
Yeah.
Where'd you go next one, John?
That's the third picture, that's the one we did.
But maybe make this like opaque or something. so you don't-
And we really didn't like the first picture, and that is right next to what
Yeah.
looked like in, residential to us in our picture, but we could, maybe not, and I can see that picture zoomed out a little bit more.
Oh,
so
it's
maybe
definitely a park.
It's a park, okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
so it's
something
like,
that you
Which they
generally
probably
might
need to
do.
to bring their business there.
but as well, you see, you know, a
And
bunch
the
of
third one again,
junk
for
outside.
the general, depending upon how you place it, you're gonna have trucks, but the idea is logistics. And this place is a truck stop, so people wanna dump a load off and then have it go to another state or somewhere else, and they just use it as a logistic place.
My biggest thing with the I-1 and I-2, the thing that is specific is the stuff that gets outside. I-1 is just doing things inside, and it's not even major products. They're already made products, and they're packaging on something. I-2 is the chemicals,
Yeah.
the actual,
Acids.
when you're ground up manufacturing something, that's I-2,
So when I'm thinking
what
about
it
this,
needs to be.
I'm thinking about this purpose statement, I'm thinking I-1, it may be okay for it to be next to a park or something.
Yes.
You know, just depends, but I-2 different.
No.
Okay.
As long as you got some restrictions on that I-1, where those, that number 2, Dolly Bun, I mean, we kinda got the same thing already here. And the trucks and the cars are parked all up and down the road, you can't hardly drive through there.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they've exceeded their parking space. And they might have told them they weren't gonna do that, but they damn sure have, you know? I mean, they're all the way down, dang near to the.
So one thing Lester brought up was about the truck, I just thought about it, is for anything I-2, there should be specific roads for the trucks to go down that hold a bigger load, because there are streets that say no large trucks, because they're gonna tear up the roads.
Yep.
So, you know,
Concrete street, not asphalt.
I think these are gonna be relatively, have easy access to the main corridors of
Now,
traffic.
now,
I-35 and Ronald Reagan, that's where they're gonna be.
If we had a concrete road coming off of Ronald Reagan going straight to an industrial area, that would be probably ideal for the trucks to travel on a concrete road and get onto Ronald Reagan, or get onto,
now,
you know.
yeah, now what if I had a building like this? Maybe it's mainly warehousing space.
That's right, C18.
Yeah, no, they're not manufacturing anything, but they get a lot of trucks. Warehouse distribution, they're shipping trucks down to Tesla, you know, all the time. And it's on a major arterial road. It's on the corner of a major arterial and a collector. Yeah. Would you have any concerns if we put a bunch of I-1 zoning on roads, a bunch of I-1 zoning on roads that also share residential traffic?
Well, you're not gonna get around it.
I think you want to minimize it as much as possible, but you're not gonna be able
yeah,
to
I can
stop.
stop it, but deter it, make it a little more convenient for like wider lanes for trucks, cause maybe they're like, well, I'd rather go to that one as opposed to.
So it's more about traffic
Yeah.
management than
It's,
total
it's
space.
traffic, Yeah.
Spike strips.
Wear and tear on the road.
And to make it look as nice as you can, because you're gonna have residential people going by. So I like lots of glass and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move on to special districts, we'll keep it moving. We're almost done. These next two will definitely go faster than this. I know I said that last time.
You said
Last time.
One more. Okay. But these really work, these really work. Okay, so, what we're calling our special purpose districts are really four. So you have, ag, public facilities and mixed use district, which are gonna be standard straight zoning districts, and then your PUD. Jonathan?
So this is our agriculture district. This one will really differ from your SF1, as in it'll be more on the outside of town, maybe on the edge of the city limits, or this might be a use that you would give a piece of land that wants to annex and hasn't really decided what they want to do with it yet. This one would be appropriate for, obviously really wide open spaces, more ranch, farm home type of situation, or something like a farm stand, or just a farm, or recreation like a horse facility for kids to ride horses.
So this is a new district we've added to UDC. Most cities have one, because you have to have a place to put these types of uses for stables, farm, store, whatever. But most of the time, cities use this as a holding place. If somebody wants to annex, but they don't want to request zoning right now, you put them in. Because most likely what they're doing on the property is already nag.
You have to have some restrictions on
Never seen
space for livestock.
Yeah, usually these have big minimum district sizes, big setbacks, that kind of thing. Now, in Texas, we do have right to farm laws. And
It just passed,
oh yeah, they do. And so you don't want to,
Amendment number one.
you don't want to infringe on those types of things, but making accommodations for the right next to a neighborhood.
But it can, it happened in California on the agriculture department, the towns grew to the farms, dairy farms in particular. And when that happened, then the residents, not accustomed to the odors, raised Cain, and they were there first. But they finally gave in to the BS, and they moved to Stephenville. When that came, where everybody said that their well water was nitrates and all that. But, that could happen here just as well.
It is happening.
That is actually why we've created an agricultural zoning district, to give you a public forum to discuss this problem.
Well, but
Yeah.
we've gotta be able to protect, everybody needs to know that's what you're gonna have next to you, and you have no reason to gripe if you.
And that's why we have,
house.
that actually goes back to the history of zoning. I could lecture on that. But that's what you
Well, we don't
call
have time for
that
that.
kind of thing. Public facilities district, we've created this one out of the feedback we heard last time, right? This is really where you as the city, or school districts, or other public organizations, churches, daycares, anybody who's really operating a public facility, could request specific public facility zoning. Most of the time, this is useful because it can save you as a decision maker. If your school district, I think previously in the old permitted use table, schools were permitted in like a commercial zone, right? If the ISD came to council and said, hey, we need to build an elementary school, we need the right zoning for it, you wouldn't want to give them 30 acres of C1 zoning in the middle of a neighborhood. Because let's say you zone it, school district backs out, doesn't have property, well, somebody else can pick it up, right? But if you give it public facility zoning, the list of uses permitted there at the table are really gonna be things that you wouldn't mind being.
That makes sense.
And we've even included some conditions in there that we stole from other cities about what type of school has to be on what type of road, right? So most of them we all say collector road, right? So you have a major road being now in the neighborhood. We wouldn't want to put an elementary school with that big long pickup line off a local street, right? Or have them go to high school, right? Kill everybody. This one.
For public facilities, they probably are built with this in mind, but for public facilities, especially in Jarrell, we have we've had really bad tornadoes in the past, so I think that, I think we should have a decent amount of public facilities that would be tornado shelters or built to be strong enough to withstand, and they may already be, but I think that that's something to keep in mind for our public facilities, if, you know,
Well, they actually.
Well, I don't know about that.
yeah, no, I'm sure the schools are already, they should,
Yeah.
The schools are doing it, but as far as the city of Jarrell actually building a storm shelter,
well, we would.
I'm opposed to that because that's not.
We wouldn't have to, I'm not
That's
saying,
not-
I'm not saying that we build a storm shelter, I'm saying that, for future buildings and future infrastructure, that we keep in mind that we want to have very strong buildings that potentially it would be.
So they withstand winds of up to 150 miles an hour.
I think it's great feedback. When I think about the things we can regulate with zoning, location, use, we can make sure they're listed as they go. You know, you can have a storm shelter or something in that district, but, building placement, building design, that sort of thing. I'm not sure that the things you need to include in a code to make sure it's tornado safe would be zoning.
That's fair, it was just a thought.
Yeah, that's a great thought.
I think as we stand right now, the schools that we get put in, we wind up building, the most dense populations right next to our own. So you build a school and then you have super dense, residential, and I don't think that should happen. I think PF will have some idea about that long line sitting there, people getting in and out.
Schools are gonna look at it from logistics. They're gonna go where the density is. And that meant, because now they got the cost of busing those kids to and from, and that becomes a nightmare. And moving, if they're close by, and they can walk.
Traffic amazes me on those roads. I wonder why, and I always ask myself this question. Why does everybody drive their kids to school when they don't use the buses?
Well, because by state law, Jeff, you don't have to provide transportation if they live within 2 miles of the school.
Is that correct?
and-
So kids gotta walk.
Yeah. No, some school districts go ahead and pay for that out of their pocket to transport the kids. And Jarrell used to do that, but a couple of years ago, they said, we can't afford it, we have to have more buses.
I see kids walking, yeah.
So, and in today's world, Jeff, people don't want their kids walking. I mean, it's not like when we were in school. No.
Okay.
So that's the reason.
Our next special purpose district is what we're calling a mixed use district. We created this out of the feedback we got last time, which reflected with the comp plan policies regarding the specialty mixed use district. In this district, we would propose that you're able to mix commercial and residential uses all in one. The only condition we would propose on this would be that residential uses you're proposing here have to be on top of a commercial use. Right? So you can't have a standalone apartment complex, that goes in MF2. Anything that's on top of a commercial business would go here in MU. Because of that, we would propose that this would be the most dense place in Jarrell, right? Most of these places throughout Central Texas allow up to 40 or more dwelling units per acre. MF2, those may be 24, 25. 20 per acre. But here, this is really where you're encouraging developers to build structured parking, green spaces, walkable streets, that sort of thing. Could take a few different forms, but this is reflective of the comp plan.
Everything's going anyway.
Yep.
In Austin, everywhere around, it's all going that direction.
Most
Best use of the property.
The last special district you'll see listed there is the PUD. Right, and this is we have not changed the statement here. But we do have included it here because it is a zoning district, it is something somebody can request. This is really where somebody's trying to plan for one large tract of land at once with multiple different uses, or really where they're trying to develop a product in Jarrell that would not otherwise be permitted by your code. And with the changes we're proposing today, to my understanding, you have a lot of PUDs, right? Folks want something your code won't let them have, or they just want to negotiate for the fun of it. With these changes, we would expect the number of PUDs you have to go down. but really we did not change this statement here. There's nothing specific we're proposing about floods, but if y'all have any feedback today, we would love to hear it. Because y'all are folks using this tool to make decisions.
Are any of those planned right now, or what we're just looking at? Just curious. That's not one of ours.
These are not yours.
Okay.
No, none of these.
I believe Sierra G is the plans and development in Jarrell, yeah.
So you stand corrected.
Okay, so, I think these are pretty straightforward. Maybe let's just take 4 or 5 minutes and work through those worksheets by yourself, and we can just have a very short, big discussion.
I'm still wondering, I got a card or something. So I'm gonna call, just talking. Is your
That's still right here.
I'm in the door shot, I'll tell you what my kids do when they go on, they're like, what is that, what do we do? I guess it's a drill, I mean, they go on and then they go off, and that's it.
You got anything?
Yeah, that's what they're.
Right, that's what they said. I saw the dollar sign.
It's not good. You know, like, the digital space.
You only go to residential, right? Are you building over on too expensive? When you first got here, that was like, you got $3,000. You know what I'm saying? I got one. In Jarrell.
I think I'm
You didn't know what? When you turn, it says 40 seconds.
Yeah, I know. Let's say this is Jarrell.
But is it good? Is it? We don't know.
And there's no signs. Jarrell.
I mean, we started over.
Jillian, one more minute, or we
Break.
break?
Oh, no, I think yeah, because this was the thing, yeah, he was competing with Harris. They were like, but I think this could get
Questions, comments, snide remarks on the special districts?
No, I think they're really pretty much cut and dry. I don't see a lot.
We need to close the council meeting because we no longer have a quorum. We can, y'all can still continue interacting, we just need to close the meeting and now y'all are.
Okay.
Sounds good,
Close.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so let me close the council meeting. Make note that Alderman Clausen left at 8:50, please. And we will close the city council meeting. No further business, we adjourn. Okay.
We need to adjourn.
Okay.
Y'all still have a quorum, correct?
We do.
Yes.
So, yeah, now we can continue on.
So, questions, comments, snide remarks about, no snide remarks. Questions or comments on the special districts?
No, they all seem straightforward, I don't see why.
So the PUD would be a Disney World or Disneyland, right?
Yeah, totally, yeah. In the mixed use district, I know it can seem very tense. Is that something you can see working in general? Or do you see potentially maybe something where the units are stacked on top of each other, maybe they're side by side? We have maybe just like a very dense townhome product in commercial, or do you feel like it would only work if they're stacked on top?
I think anybody
I think
want to spend the money.
I
I think either one will work
Yeah,
in time.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, if someone wanted to come in and put those here and the city, and it was good for the city, then I think it's
Like a
fine.
donate or something.
Yeah, that's what
To-
they're willing to spend the money.
I guess, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
if they're truly gonna spend the money,
Why would
I
Yeah.
we tell them not?
And-
Why
and-
wouldn't
and I
mean,
guess-
we have open land down
Yeah,
here, so I guess it would just kind of depend on where
Just the
you would
location.
have that district put for something like that.
My question is, how does tax work for, commercial and residential in the same spot? I don't know how that works. Are they both charged as normal, for like what the city would get, or,
Commercial property is bigger, I mean, they can pay more taxes.
right? but-
More roof space, based on roof space, I
It's
believe.
based
Yeah,
on
but
the
it-
valuation of
yeah.
the building.
Valuation.
And so it's charged to whoever the property owner is, and so with one of these units, it's typically, I mean, it could be divided within the building, but whatever those boundaries are, it's just. the
So
boundary.
in the end, it's either commercial or residential,
Yes.
so
For
it'll
valuation.
it'll get taxed
Yeah,
for
per,
commercial and
this
and the
square-
other
this square
residential
footage
will
that's
be
residential,
taxed as
taxed
a residential.
I guess
And
that's-
they'll both be a lot more
Yeah,
because
it's
the.
divided.
I suppose, yeah, because it would be rent, you wouldn't own anything.
Well, some people own them.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Well,
that's,
it's
like,
just-
that's
it's
like
just,
Still have
yeah.
property taxes.
It just depends
Right.
on ownership structure, on how it's used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as there's no complaints.
I do like that idea because I think
There's always
that,
As long as we cut them out.
as far as our water and wastewater, and our other infrastructure, it's all very compact. So I think it's more efficient to run it to a very compact area like that. And when I get old, I might want to live in a place like that.
It's way down the ground floor, I ain't scared of it.
This is our last slide, I promise, the last slide. Okay, so, we're not gonna discuss these with y'all today, but next month we are gonna be talking about the new overlay districts, right? We envision these being mostly used as design standards. You can use an overlay district to regulate use, which we will talk about tonight, but we really think this is all about, look and feel of these places like we discussed tonight. How do we use the downtown overlay to adjust that C2, the look of downtown? How can we use the OC overlay to adjust that SF2, SF3 to be specific to the character of Old Town? And these are what Jordan and Danielle mentioned earlier, that you need additional input from residents and the folks who live there before you actually discuss these. But the I-35 district, that's probably something we can discuss next month, how you want the look and feel. We got some of that feedback tonight, but we'll certainly be back next month. Discuss then.
Awesome.
Thank y'all for staying with us. We kept it to 3 hours this time.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
If
please,
there be no further business, the planning and zoning is now adjourned.
can y'all please leave your handouts here so we can take them back with us?
This,
Up to mine.
Yeah, if that's okay, and if
No,
you wanna take it with you,
No, that's
do you want
Just let me
this whole folder?
no, just if you marked anything up, or, if you had like one person in your group.
Please.
and this.
Yeah.
No, just whatever you marked up.
I think Jeff actually took his with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I didn't think about
And
that.
this is good
Do
time.
that.
I think Tanya may have taken hers as well.
Okay, that's okay.
That's okay.
You wrote it down.
I want to make sure.
Well, we pretty much talked it out in agreed.
Yeah,
Okay. Something that they, yeah.
it's okay. Jeff had his own ideas, but mine were better anyway. Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on that.
We actually reviewed, I think we've done that, we actually went over all this with Sally last week.